TikTok time to rock. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon to everyone who's watching from all over the world. Your friendly neighborhood philosopher here, D Wood. Got some guests with me. I'm going to go ahead and tell everyone in advance for the rest of this week. My wife is out of town. She's at a conference on rare diseases, and that basically means I'm not getting a lot of sleep all week long because I have a bunch of extra stuff I have to do. So I'm going to be even less coherent than normal as the week continues and so on. We'll see how I'm doing. We'll see how I'm doing tonight. But we got Jai up there, good buddy Jai. And how you doing, Jai?
Hey, what's up? Happy to join you today. I think we met Hassam on Avery's live stream. So we had a little discussion with him, and you wanted to kind of say, hey, you got some interesting views. And so here we are today with that. So I'm excited to see what these guys have to say. And, we'll give some friendly pushback as well. But we're really interested to hear what their position is. So, yeah, excited to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, so we were live, what was that, last week or something like that?
It was last Wednesday.
Last Wednesday over on GodLogic's channel, and it was live call-in. And yeah, Hussam called in and was presenting some different views from what we were familiar with, but he was super cool and friendly, so I said he can come on to discuss his views more, and so he agreed. How you doing, Hussam?
Pretty good. Yeah, thank you for having me on.
Yeah, and so I told him he could come on and share his perspective on things, and he asked if he could bring his friend Naveed with him, and so we've got Naveed here. How you doing?
Good, very good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and so everyone, they'll be able to clarify more and so on. But over the years, everyone, you may have heard of Rashad Khalifa, and when I have a Quran browser I go to that has 10 translations, and he's one of the translations. So I've noticed over the years some different he's translating some things differently from other Quran translations, and a lot of you have probably heard over the years, even if you're not familiar with where it came from, the argument based on the number 19 in the Quran and how this kind of pops up in a bunch of different ways. And even people who aren't followers of Rashid Khalifa, I've seen use it, like Shabir Ali. Shabir Ali has used a lot of that. I've seen that when I've been in debates with Shabir. But I've never really had a serious sit-down conversation to get the view. So I wanted to tell everyone in advance, this isn't a debate. It's usually a good principle to try to understand someone's position before attacking it and so on. So yeah, we basically want to get our minds around this view and how it differs from the Islam that we're familiar with and so on. And I was telling them right before we started, I basically would like to know, one, what they believe, and two, why they believe it. So other than that, they can pretty much decide where they want to go with this. So anything before we get started?
I think we're good.
No, good. All right. So, all right, guys, you can kind of go in any direction you want with this, and we'd be interested in hearing your thoughts on things.
Yeah, so I mean, we believe the Quran is the literal proven word of God, but as we see in the Quran, many stories, after the prophet or messenger dies, the people distort that message. And so we believe very early on with the Muslims, they totally distorted the message of the Quran. They developed a comprehensive system of laws and rulings that are separate and distinct from the Quran. Obviously, we believe the hadith are lies falsely attributed to the prophet containing laws separate and distinct from the Quran. And we just condemn, we just condemn the Muslims for what they're doing. We believe they're idol worshippers. We believe they don't follow, God's word. They don't follow God's path. And we're really big on, strict monotheism. The Quran is the only source of law. And Rashad Khalifa came in the 70s and 80s, and he unveiled a secret of the Quran based on the Quranic initials that prefix 29 chapters. He was able to identify and proclaim mathematical structure in the Quran based on number 19. And after that, shortly after, he declared hadith are demonic, they're satanic doctrines. So we are to reject them. The Quran is the only proven word. And there's gradual revelation, more information comes out, and ultimately in 1988, he comes out with a declaration of messengership, fatwas issued, and the Muslims brutally, well, they bless him with martyrdom, and God bless him with martyrdom in 1990, but they were very vicious against him, and since then, a lot of people that followed him, I think they were scared, kind of underground. And so we're kind of bringing it back. I've been involved in this for about 20 plus years, maybe 25 years. But more recently, we kind of finding each other and trying to make a comeback to proclaim the message that the late Dr. Rashad Khalifa proclaimed. So we find ourselves in an interesting predicament because you guys may have heard of Quranists, and they've been more predominant lately. They're getting more active. Now, there is a distinction between us and the Quranists. What's interesting is they use a lot of our arguments. The Quran is complete, perfect, fully detailed. It's the only source of law, this, that, and the other. But the thing is, they kind of make a whole like DIY of religion where every Quranist kind of has to make up their own doctrine. Some will pray to Petra, some will say prayer is a mental state, and there's all kinds of different laws that they concoct and they get together. Where the difference with us is we have a clear, coherent doctrine as proclaimed by Dr. Rashad Khalifa using only his translation of the Quran to derive our understandings and rulings. And so this leads to a lot more unity and like I said, coherence in our belief system. I think that's a general summary. I don't know.
Yeah, I had kind of one question about your perspective on like hadiths and other sources like that. When you say that you're rejecting them and that they're corrupted, like, do you mean just as like a source of authority, or you just like reject them for history and everything
Well,
else?
yeah. So I mean, the hadith were compiled hundreds of years after the Prophet died. The first of the Sitta. So you guys know the Sitta is the first, is the six canon books of hadith, starting with Bukhari, Muslim, Tirmidhi, Abu Dawud, Ibn Majah and Nasai, and this is in Persia. This is going on thousands of, I think, 4,000 miles away from, 4,000 kilometers away from Mecca, minimum 240 plus years later. So, I mean, these hadiths are failing on just even basic biographical information about the Prophet. For example, when you look at the number of years that they, say the Prophet lived in Mecca, there's, I think, 15 chains that we have in the Sahih Hadith. Some say 10 years, some say 13 years, some say 15 years. And it just produces all kinds of basic contradictions that the Muslims cannot overcome. So, can there be accurate information in them? Sure. Do they have any relevance or significance in our belief system or religion? Absolutely not. We believe they're a source of Satan, and you can clearly tell that the authors of the Hadith are different from the authors of the Quran, regardless of even how you feel about the Quran, because of the extreme nonsense that you see in the Hadith. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, kind of connected to that. Again, I just kind of want to understand your perspective on this. But I was talking to a Quran only Muslim one time, and he was he had a problem even with like the normal like Sunni Shahada. There is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his messenger. He was like, what are you putting? What are you adding Muhammad into this for when you're supposed to be proclaiming something about God? And he said like, imagine you got a letter from a king and the mailman brought it to you. He said you wouldn't start like praising the mailman and building your life around the mailman. You got a message from the king. That's the focus. The other guy's the mailman, and he was basically explaining like you shouldn't be building a religion around Muhammad and so on. But anyway, that was his position. So I was just wondering what's the role, like how significant is Muhammad besides
Muhammad,
delivering the message?
Yeah. Muhammad was a final prophet. He was a messenger of God, and he delivered the Quran, and that was his role. His function was to deliver the Quran, and that's it. So this idolization of the prophet, I mean, I know Muslims don't like me saying this, but they idolize him. They essentially worship him, right? Because they give him divine characteristics. They believe he performed physical miracles beyond anything that's in the Quran. They believe that he split the moon. They believe that he can intercede on the day of judgment. They believe he's the best creation. Various forms that they get more and more extreme. So for us, no. And probably before this person that you're describing was born, Rashad Khalifa proclaimed in the 80s that the Shahada is just the one in the Quran, La ilaha illallah, and there's no God except God, and this is the first commandment of the Bible. And even in the chapter titled Muhammad, chapter 47, verse 19, ironically, Muhammad is given his Shahada as just La ilaha illallah. You see instances of Muhammad proclaiming this Shahada to the people, I think in 37, 35, and 36.
And
He
then
goes to the people, he tells
619.
them, yeah, La ilaha illallah. And then also, if you look in chapter 3, verse 18, the Shahada of God, the angels, and those with knowledge is always La ilaha illallah, in addition to all the prophets and messengers in the Quran. I think about 50 times. It's always this. So even if you want to look at it historically, artifact from the artifact point of view, I think the earliest Mohammedan Shahada, or what they refer to as the Shahadatain, didn't appear until many decades after Prophet Muhammad. I think 60 or 70 years. Fred Donner has a book talks about that, where the coinage, they started to add Muhammad, but the earlier one didn't have it. And the Shahada in the Quran is just God alone. So they took a religion about God and they made it a religion, a fake religion and a fake portrayal on Muhammad. And
Yeah, and something
so
that's yeah, and something that's pretty funny is the only people in the whole entire Quran to say the Muhammad Shahada are the hypocrites. In chapter 63, verse 1, which is the hypocrite chapter, ironically, it opens with hypocrites saying the Muhammad Shahada. So how
that's
ironic is that?
correct.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
also,
yeah.
in chapter 2, verse
Well,
285,
yeah, it says make no distinction between the messengers, and we really hold
exactly.
firm to that. In chapter 3, verse 144, it says Muhammad was no more than a messenger like the messengers before you. Ironically, even in their hadith, it says that the Jews and Christians are cursed and damned by God for turning the tombs of their prophets into places of worship, and that's what the Muslims did with Medina. So if it was us, if it were up to us, we would tear that place down. We not make distinction between the messengers, and we make the religion solely on the focus of worship of God alone.
Couple of questions from the chat, but one of these was the same I was thinking of. Now, you mentioned that Muslims attribute various physical miracles to him. They're beyond what was in the Quran now. As we've kind of understood the Quran is saying that the Quran is Muhammad's miracle, and
That's right. Yeah,
that he didn't
yeah.
perform miracles, and yet so
They
yeah, I
no
just wanted to
physical
put
miracle. I just want to clarify that no physical miracles. The Quran is his proof and his the quote unquote miracle that he's presenting to the people. There is no physical miracle by Muhammad.
yeah. So yeah, and I brought that up because I was wondering the same thing that this person with DJ Ty Singer, yeah. Said split the moon. So when you said beyond the miracle, in the Quran, like we're wondering, because some Muslims will say that Muhammad split the moon, and that's in the Quran.
We don't believe. No, we don't believe
Okay.
Muhammad split
Just
the
so
moon.
so the Quran is his miracle, and even when
Yes.
Muslims try to appeal to something in the Quran, saying that ties into a miracle we read about in the Hadith, you're not agreeing with them on that.
No, even I don't think the Quran never says that Muhammad split the moon. It says the hour has
Yeah.
come closer and the moon has split, but it doesn't say Muhammad is the one who split the moon with a sword or any of this kind of stuff. So there is no physical miracle attributed to the prophet in the Quran. In fact, the Quran actually says it stopped us. We have stopped sending those kinds of physical miracles that were expected or presented in the past. So we don't believe in any of that.
Okay.
Yeah, and then chapter 29, 50 through 51, it says, they said, if only miracles could come down to him from his Lord, say, all miracles come only from God. I am no more than a manifest warner. Is it not enough of a miracle that we sent down to this book being recited to them? This is indeed a mercy and a reminder for people who believe. So this confirms that he had no physical miracles except for the Quran.
Yep, that's pretty much exactly how we read the Quran. It seems clear. It seems clear on that issue. So we're always confused by why they would appeal to the hadiths when, the Quran would seem to take precedents, like just even according to us, it'd be like, well, the Quran is way earlier, so why wouldn't you go with that? And then another question sort of related to this. Not just this. So the command to pray 5 times a day, that comes from the Hadith. The Quran mentions 3 prayers, but
We have
I'm just
5 times. We have 5
We
prayers.
can present 5. Hassan, I can
Okay.
handle this one. We can present 5 prayers from the Quran. 11:114 says both ends of the day and the early part of the night, so that's dawn, afternoon, and sunset. 24:58 says night prayer, Salat al-Isha, which is the late part of the night, that's 4. And then 1778 says Duluk al-Shams, which is when the sun declines from the highest point in the sky. That's all 5 prayers inside of the Quran.
And how would because I know that a lot of what most Muslims pray during their prayers comes from the Hadith. So how would your prayers differ from those of, let's say, a Sunni Muslim?
Yeah, so look, the way we look at it is like this. There's several ways I can explain it, but basically, we take the existing religion of Sunni Islam, that's what we believe is a deviant, demonic, perverted religion, but we take that and filter the whole thing with the Quran. So we're checking for 3 things with the Salat. We take the Salat as is, filter it through 3 things: shirk, bid'ah, and sunnah. So any idolatry, any innovation, and any sunnah or tradition of the Prophet, we remove all of that because these are either condemned or not in the Quran. So our prayer would basically be a purified form of the Sunni prayer that's devoted to God alone without calling on the Prophet. As you know, the Muslims in their prayer, in their atayat, they say, Assalamu alayka ayyuha nabi. They call on the Prophet against his will. He can't hear them. He doesn't have the ability to hear them. He has no knowledge of them, as he says in 5109. And so we remove that. So the difference between us and some of these Quranists, I guess, is they want to build a religion from scratch. They're like, look, we're just going to take the Quran and we're going to build up the whole religion using the Quran and our own, senses, our own perceptions. We're saying no. The religion in the Quran is identified as the religion of Abraham, Millat Ibrahim, that's stated in the Quran. He brought 4 practices: the contact prayer, salat, the obligatory charity zakat, the fasting during Ramadan, Psalm, and a pilgrimage to Mecca at least once in a lifetime. These already existed, so we need to take these existing practices and purify them with the Quran. That's the difference. And on top of that, these are defined words. So in the Quran where it says as-salat, we accept the established meaning of this term. Same way that we would accept the word dog, the same way we would accept the word elephant. These words that occur in the Quran, we accept their established meanings and definitions as is. And we recognize that Sunnis and Shias, even though they disagree on the hadith that they uphold, they accept universally the skeletal practice of the salat, the contact prayer practice that we uphold.
Let's see. We've got some more questions here. Jai, do you have anything before we?
Yeah. So I want to know a little bit about your terminology before I ask some other questions. Back on Avery's stream on Wednesday, Hassam, you said that you don't identify as a Muslim, and you said your religion is not Islam. So is that something universal in your religion? Like you guys don't identify yourselves as Muslims and you don't practice Islam, or how would you?
So at the end of 1989, the Messenger of the Covenant, Dr. Rashad Khalifa, made a major proclamation in his monthly newsletter, The Submitter's Perspective, and he told us that we are no longer using the terminology of Muslim and Islam. He says these are perverted terms. They've been hijacked by the Sunnis. They're just become out of bounds, and we're uniting in a universal concept of identifying with the religion of submission and identifying as submitters. We're making yeah.
So do either of you guys speak Arabic?
I do.
No.
Yeah.
Well, he does actually. He's
I do.
Okay. Now, so have you ever? I mean, maybe you haven't, but have you had these extensive conversations in Arabic? Like, how would you identify yourself in Arabic if you don't identify as a Muslim?
He
So in
said,
Arabic,
Millat Ibrahim, Allah wahdahu, Al-Quran wahdahu. Saying these things in Arabic would already tell the other person that.
So in English, you call yourself submitter, but in Arabic,
Yeah.
what would you call yourself?
I would just call myself Millat Ibrahim, which means creed of Abraham, a follower of Abraham.
You
I
could
still
say
want
I'm a Muslim. You could say I'm a Muslim, but you would have to clarify it further.
Yeah.
It's like in English, if someone asks, "Are you gay?" If it was 100 years ago, I'd say, "Yeah, I'm very gay. I'm happy. I'm doing great." But today, it
Okay.
is a derogatory, or I guess it means homosexual. A lot of people use it as a derogatory term. We look at the term Muslim in a similar way. Today, Muslim is idol worshiper, pagan, terrorist, all these,
Okay.
connotations to it. So we just clean
So
the
so
slate.
you don't identify as Muslims unless you
No.
clarify that. So for
Yes.
example, it sounds like this is something that you believe has been abrogated, which leads to my other question about your sources of authority. You mentioned that Rashad Khalifa has a translation and he also issued fatwas. So when it comes to authority, does he issue you guys like commentaries, authoritative commentaries, or
He is
how do you?
yes, he explains that Angel Gabriel takes over his brain, gives him information, he relays that to us. That's
Okay.
it.
And so you have like a commentary of the Quran that you can go to because
Yes,
you
right
were
here.
both studying the
Right here.
Quran. Okay. And
Yes.
so whatever you say lines up with what his commentary says. Is that right?
Yes. Yes.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. So you can identify because Hassam, you mentioned a verse earlier. You said that was about Muhammad about not performing signs, but obviously
Yeah.
that verse doesn't mention Muhammad. So does he identify that as Muhammad, or do you have to do something else
Yes.
to figure that out?
Yes. No, no, no. He does. Point
He
blank. He
does.
Okay.
He
says
does.
Muhammad
Okay.
had no physical miracles.
Okay. So for sources of authority, you guys go to his translation, his
And this is
commentary.
yeah, and
Yep.
this is similar to, well, it's the irony is that we actually refer to the verses that the Muslims refer to when they're trying to
Yeah.
justify hadith, right?
Okay.
So it says obey God and obey the messenger. The command to obey God and the messenger occurs 19 times in the Quran. We're getting into number 19 maybe a little later, but the point is
Yeah.
that the Quran says when you have a dispute, the best solution is refer to the messenger. That's in 459. 465 makes the bar even higher, or actually makes it more strict. It says
Yeah.
if you don't refer to the messenger, then you're out of bounds. You're out of the religion. You're
And you
not a
take that
believer
to
unless
mean
you accept
Rashad Khalifa. That's
Jinn,
the messenger.
Rashad
Yeah.
Khalifa. Right
Okay.
now, at the time of Muhammad, is whatever Muhammad said. At that time,
Okay.
during his life, it's temporal. Now, it's Rashad Khalifa.
Okay. So
Jai,
terms like
hey, Jai,
yeah. Go ahead.
just 1 second, real quick. Did you invite another guest on?
Did
I
I?
think Abdullah, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to make sure. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't some
Yeah.
random person who got
It's
it.
his
No,
name
So,
he's
is
with us.
Abdullah,
He's
right?
with. Thank you.
what's
Thank
that?
you. I appreciate it. No, he's
Yeah.
with us.
1 second. 1 second. I'll get him up here. And why is it not working? Ah, one
By the
second.
way, guys, I'm gonna share my Discord to David, and David, can you put my Discord link in the chat?
Yeah,
Thanks,
yeah.
guys.
You want to send
How's
it
it
Yeah,
to
I
going?
him?
think.
Hey.
Welcome.
Yeah, I think some people. Peace and welcome. Thanks for coming. I think some people are asking, where can we get resources? How do we talk to these people? And our primarily source of kind of communication right now is on Discord. It's on our Discord server, discord.gg/submission, and that's where we spend our time. It has a verification system. We had a lot of Muslims, a lot of Sunnis attacking us, trying to hack us, trying to, do all kinds of vicious things. I get death threats all the time. I get doxxed, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But we have a
Yeah.
verification
We know what that's
system.
like.
We try to get.
Yeah. So so yeah,
Go
I was
ahead.
just finishing up there. Unless David, you wanted to take it
Oh
somewhere.
yeah,
after that, or-
Hussam, if you want, Hussam, if you actually want to, if you want to send it, if you want to send me the link by email, I'll toss it in the description. I'll
I'll
toss
email
it in
it
the
to you,
description. That way, everyone has
Yeah.
it there.
I'll do that right.
So yeah, so just to clarify where I was going, so so the terminology, you guys accept Muslim and Islam, but that has been abrogated later on, and you guys no longer identify as Muslims or practicing Islam unless you clarify, like this is what we mean when we say that. We don't mean
Yeah.
Sunni or
Yes.
Shia. Okay, and then when
Yes.
it comes to source of authority, it's primarily what Rashad Khalifa has to say in his commentaries, right, in his fatwas, his
Yes.
legal rulings,
Yes.
and his
Yes.
translation, right? So what role does like the Arabic Quran play in terms of authority? Like if someone cites to you the Arabic Quran that differs from his translation, how would you guys what would you respond? How would you respond to that?
We would not accept that. I mean, I think the Arabic Quran could have secondary function in
Oh,
terms of
okay.
like, yeah, well, when I say that, I'm talking about like, okay, we have a dispute over let's look at it like this. Every Arabic word in the Quran can have a range of meanings from 5 to 85 or more, right? And so if any Joe Schmo just comes up here, that's what happened with the Quran is, and we could talk about that in a moment. But basically, they can pick and choose how they want to interpret or translate any given word. Then you have infinite permutations. And every time I debate these guys, I bring that up. I said, look, your religion is infinite permutations. You lack authority. You have no capacity to establish a coherent religion. I get it. You're excited about leaving, traditional Islam, and you want to kind of chart your own path, but ultimately you're at a dead end because you don't have that authority. There's no way for you guys to organize. So
Okay.
you need the ultimate decider through God's system in the Quran is the messenger, and the messenger sets the parameters, sets the framework, and then within that framework, there might be some minor investigative stuff that we can do to help us better understand the Quran. We do that. We look at the Arabic words and the roots, but it's kind of like a reverse engineering system. Whereas, okay, we're looking at it in the context of his teachings, of his translation, of his understandings. If that makes sense.
Okay.
Is my sound
So
coming
so
through?
his
What,
translation.
one second, Jai. I just something along those lines.
Okay.
I just wanted to point out that Sunnis, just because we're normally interacting with Sunnis, they also have a similar issue of interpretation in that it's different from the Quranists. But if you go to a commentary like Qurtubi or something like that, he'll give you 14 different interpretations of one verse. And it's like what I've noticed lots of Sunnis will do is they'll pick the one they like the best and just go with
Yeah.
that and then act like that is what the Quran is saying. So yeah, they have that kind of picking and
They
choosing
do.
what they want issue.
They do, and they're even known for the different madahib or the different schools of thought have different levels of dietary restrictions. They say, oh, the Malikis are less strict than the others, or whatever. So they're stuck too, but it's less visible because the main practices and main functions collaborate to some extent. But when it comes to Quranists, if they don't even agree on the concept of prayer at all, let alone how to perform the prayer, which direction to face, they're even more shattered, more broken than any Protestant church divide. So they're totally cooked in that regard. That's why they,
Right.
they, they
They have
outnumber
no
us on.
authority, no hierarchy. They lack a complete authoritative system, right? At
There's,
least with again, with the church, you've got the
yeah, so
church,
that
you've got the church fathers,
so even
but
the
they lack
that's
that completely. Just the Sunnis,
e-
yeah.
yeah,
Go
so
on, sorry.
so the Sunnis have a little bit more structure, but the Quranists, even though they outnumber us 100 to 1, they cannot form masjids. They have no places of worship because what are they supposed to do in them? So we do have places of
Not a single
worship.
one.
So that's a
And
that's a
Right.
that's a difference.
yeah, and one follow up to what Jai was saying. So he was asking about the Rashid Khalifa translation, and so that's in English.
Yeah, right,
What
right.
would like different languages? Like let's suppose people wanted the Quran in like Chinese or something like that. Would there be an effort to
Yeah,
translate it
so
or?
So actually, during the life of Rashad, he started authorizing different translations in other languages, but the base was his English. So I mean, today in today's context, I think you would just use AI or whatever. We actually have a bunch of them in different languages. Some did it manually, some with AI, and compare it back, to the English to know the context and the meaning based on the English language. I mean, there's many examples of this because you ask Muslims to translate a verse and it has some strange Arabic idiom in it. They're not going to be able to translate it, right? And so
Right.
two
There's
birds
a
with one
video
stone.
of Sheikh Uthman not being able to translate the Arabic himself, right? If I'm not wrong, was that
Yeah.
with you know what I'm saying? So this is
Yeah.
Sheikh,
Yeah.
like, and
We're
we
familiar
So
would
with
debate
yeah,
him
Sheikh
all the time
Uthman.
with this.
Yeah.
right. So in the
Uh,
case of
Yeah.
Rashad, we're saying he lifted the veil on this. And so the verse that sounds like it's saying commit suicide, or it sounds like, these weird stuff. Maybe you heard of this Solomon verse where the traditional translations say, the angels threw a skeleton on the throne of Solomon and then he submitted, and all this kind of weird scenarios. Rashad was able to, through Angel Gabriel, know the correct meaning of those words and put them into uh, uh, the correct presentation and interpretation of those verses. Obviously, we would just take those and translate to whatever language to get the core meanings across and cross-reference the English.
okay. So that translation is like that's the ultimate authority in terms of what
That's
If
it.
someone says what is the Quran, that's the Quran. Not some
Well,
like, so you guys don't recite the Quran in Arabic, for example. You guys don't recite it in Arabic.
we don't recite the Quran in Arabic, and we understand. And there's a verse in the Quran that says you should not recite the Quran in Arabic to people that don't know Arabic. That's in
Yeah.
chapter 26, 198 and 199, if I'm not mistaken. I just want to verify it here. Yeah. So, so it says the Quran must be translated. That's the title of Rashad. It says 198. If we revealed this to people who do not know Arabic and had them recited in Arabic, they could not possibly believe in it. So he really emphasizes this concept. You got to translate it for people. And so basically here we're saying that the message of the Quran, the Arabic Quran that Prophet Muhammad delivered, is being presented by Rashad Khalifa in the English translation and his commentary. It's all kind of one
Okay.
package of presenting that.
So I think I'll just be real quick with this last part, and then you guys can continue on wherever David wants you to go, wherever you guys want to go. But so do you make any distinction between the terms messenger and prophet? Because I heard you distinguish
Yes.
between Muhammad as, okay, you do
Yes.
make a distinct. Okay, so what would that distinguishment be?
Yeah, so the Quran tells us that Muhammad is the final prophet. That's in 3340. But at the
Okay.
same time, the Quran tells us in 735 that there are more messengers coming. And it speaks in the present tense, O you people, and then watch for the messengers are coming. Specifically, God tells us in 381 that there's one specific messenger known as the messenger of the covenant that's coming to confirm all existing scriptures. As you know, there's maybe 30 or more versions of the Quran today, and there's different issues with the Arabic text of the Quran around the world. And one of the functions of the messenger and code 19 was to confirm, okay, what even is the Quran? Is it Hafs? Is it Warsh? Is it Qalun? Is it Duri? All these different ones with different meanings, variations in law, variations in words, variations in spellings. And the common understanding of Muslims is just wrong. They think, oh, well, all Qurans are identical to each other. That's just not the case.
Okay.
So that's one of the functions of Code 19 and Rashad Khalifa, of being able to identify the correct version of the Quran that we are to uphold.
Okay, so in terms of functional role between a messenger and a prophet, like some Muslims will, I mean, Sunni Muslims, for example, they say like, one comes with a book, for example. So do you guys
Yeah.
make those distinctions?
Yeah,
Or?
so the Quran, yes, the Quran teaches every time the word prophet occurs in Arabic is nubuwah, it comes with scripture. So prophet and
Okay.
scripture come hand in hand. Muhammad's the final prophet, and he brought the final scripture, and Rashad Khalifa is a messenger, not a
Okay,
prophet
so
that
he's
came
a
afterwards.
messenger. So Rashad
Yeah,
Khalifa is a messenger. He's not a prophet
not a
for you
prophet.
guys. Okay, now he was Egyptian, correct?
Correct.
Yes, he was an Egyptian American.
Egyptian American. Okay, so in the Quran, for example, chapter 14, verse 4, how does he translate chapter 14, verse 4?
Yeah, I can read it for you. I have it here. Let's see.
Okay,
Seven,
so
so fourth,
just
yeah.
yeah, you can just read it first if that's okay.
Yeah, so he says, messenger's language. We did not send any messenger except to preach in the tongue of his people in order to clarify things for them. God then sends astray whomever he wills and guides whomever he wills. He is the Almighty, the most wise.
Okay, now does he offer any commentary on that verse?
Here in the translation, he just has a subtitle that says the messenger's language, and then in parentheses he has to preach. But I
Okay,
think I
so
understand where you're going with your, yeah.
how I understand it, and that's why I want to know your understanding. But how I understand it is that each messenger is sent to a specific people group in their language. So if he's a messenger, not a prophet, if he's a messenger and he's Egyptian, he's sent to his people, supposed to be in their language. How would he explain that first, or am I
Yeah.
misunderstanding it according to your
Yeah,
perspective?
so, well, first of all, he did not proclaim messengership in Egypt, and he wasn't sent to Egypt. He was already in America for, what, 10 to 20, 30 years by that point. He came here in the 50s, and he was here up until his death in 1990. So
He
he
was a native
proclaims
Arab speaker
himself,
too.
he
So
was
he
a
was a
native
native Arab
Arabic
speaker.
speaker,
He did
but
speak to
he
the Arabs, um,
yes,
but yeah, he
but he
was
got his
mainly
but he
in
yeah,
America.
but he got his master's degree and PhD in America. He was proficient in the English language,
That's
and
fine.
he
Yeah,
proclaims. Well, I just want
yeah.
to say this. In his proclamation of messengership, I think it's May 1988, Submitter's Perspective, he proclaims that he's the messenger to America, and America is the heart of submission, and America is the English speaking, the core of the English speaking world. So his main language to the world is English, and that's basically the
Okay.
most broadest language of the world. That makes sense to me, at
And
least.
but you don't think it's limit you don't think his message is limited to English though, right? Are you saying that it's for everybody, or is it just for the English speakers?
Well, yeah,
No,
he seems to be proclaiming to the world, right? His message to the world, as he explains it, was proclaiming
the
messengership to the world,
the avenue,
the
yeah,
unifying messenger.
the avenue of
Yep,
accessing the whole world is the English language now. So,
correct.
Okay.
and so he proclaims it in English easily. The most translatable language on earth is English. So
Okay.
we can access people everywhere in the world, especially now with AI with English.
Okay. So yeah, so just to make that point clear, so chapter 14, verse 4, that a messenger is sent to his people in their language. You guys are saying that he is sent to all people in English, and that's how you guys understand that verse, right?
Yes.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, David, wherever you want to go next with them.
Yeah, I have another question, and then there are some questions in the chat. I don't know if you guys want to cover those
Sure.
now, but I had a question which will be especially interesting to Christians on the topic of the crucifixion of Jesus, because I'm looking at the Khalifa translation here, and we've noticed as far as translations. It's basically Surah 4, verse 157 in most translations sounds like Jesus didn't die and wasn't crucified, but in 355, Surah 3, verse 55, in the Arabic, it's saying, I'm taking your soul away, which sounds like he's going to die. So I just want to read the translations, and because I have no idea
Yeah.
what your view is, but it'll be something that's interesting to Christians. So I'll just read them real quick. So this is Surah 4, verse 157, and for claiming that they killed the Messiah, Jesus, son of Mary, the messenger of God. In fact, they never killed him. They never crucified him. They were made to think that they did. All factions who are disputing in this matter are full of doubt concerning this issue. They possess no knowledge. They only conjecture. For certain, they never killed him. And then 355 says, thus God said, "O Jesus, I am terminating your life, raising you to me." So there, 355, which is what it sounds like in Arabic. It sounds like, "Hey, I'm ending your life," which sounds like you're
Yeah.
dying and not being raised, just raised
Yeah.
up as you are. So
Yeah.
what's
Yeah.
what's
We
your view on that?
understand. Yeah, we understand the body of Jesus was crucified. Body of Jesus was crucified, but prior to that, um, his soul was removed, meaning that he did not experience the suffering, the torture, the interrogation, or the death. So this reconciles all of that. We don't believe his, because with the traditional Muslims, they're like, oh, it was just a different guy or something. But it's like, okay, well, where's the body of Jesus? So no, Rashad Khalifa proclaims. He actually says one of his main duties is to proclaim the explain the death of Jesus. So I mean, and he explains it in the footnote of that verse. He says, Jesus, the real person, the soul, was raised in the same manner in the death of any righteous person. Subsequently, his enemies arrested, tortured, and crucified his living but empty body. And so he has a whole appendix where he talks about this more. It's appendix 22 of his translation. But that's the general concept that we adhere to, we uphold.
I mean, there is a like a mirroring of how God, it does say in the Bible too that Jesus is going to offer the body, or the body of Christ is going to be offered, and that's like sort of how we reconcile that too. We try to like unlike the Muslims again, we do see we do see the legitimacy in the Bible, and we have a amazing solution for this Islamic dilemma. The Islamic dilemma does work on the Muslims and Sunnis because they lock themselves into the Hadith, which again throws them into a dilemma, which we're aware of. We actually use it against them at times as well. But I've had a couple discussions in length with Avery, with God Logic, on this topic as well. Uh, the first time we spoke, he said he really enjoyed it. And we were having some good back and forth. Last couple of times, I think it got a little bit more heated. It was a little bit over exhausted from the Sunnis himself, but I completely get it. We have good relations with Christians because we don't, again, regardless of even if we see that if we see them as idol worshippers, mushriks, we have no right to attack anyone, to hurt them. There's no compulsion in religion. We cannot force nothing on no one. Like there's a huge difference in this. We see a unification, or just to be able to live live in harmony with each other, right? So that's the
Yep. But
main goal.
I just wanted to also say on the topic of Jesus, so in Appendix 22 of Rashad's translation, he also presents verses of the Bible. He presents Mark and Luke, and he gives the examples that, they made all kinds of allegations and accusations against Jesus, and he just didn't speak anymore. It's Mark 15 and Luke 23. So this Rashad presents these as additional evidence. But ultimately, to answer the first question, yeah, we do believe the body of Jesus was crucified and tortured.
And then, yeah, just to be clear, so in chapter 3, verse 55, God says, Inni mutawaffika. The word mutawaffika means I'm going to cause you to die. And anytime that word is used in the Quran, it's literally, they even
Mutawafika.
translated themselves, as to cause someone to die. But here, this is where they change it. So when God said he's going to take him up, he wasn't referring to the physical body, he was referring to the soul. Like if you ask me where my grandma is and I say, oh, she's with God now, am I referring to the physical body or am I just saying that she's dead in a nice way? You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah.
That's how we understand mutawafika, and I think it can also. I think Allah can take your soul away and then put it back if you're just asleep or something like that. But if he just says he takes it away, that means death.
Yeah, and that shows a clear distinction between the body and the soul. Because when we're sleeping and the soul is up, the body's still moving, it's still reactive. Like some people they sleep talk, or you wake up on the other side of the bed. So like the body is not dead, just the soul.
All right, we've got some questions and so on in the chat. Do you guys want to? Do you have other stuff you want to talk about?
Let's go for it. Let's go for it.
Okay, and these are just I'm just pulling up the super chats now, so some of these might be totally off topic or just directed to me about something. But that's a super sticker from Ida. Thanks, Ida. Be safe, D Wood. Oh yeah, safe is my middle name. Let's see. John Toland's latest book, 2025, says that there is no hard evidence that Muhammad destroyed the idols on top of the Kaaba. Do you agree? I don't know if you guys have a position on that. Or...
Yeah, we do actually. That's interesting. So it's fascinating that in the Quran, there's no reference to physical statues or idols at the time of the Prophet Muhammad. There is a concept of Alad, Manat, and Uzza, but there is no reference to any physical statues in Arabia at that time. In fact, archaeologically, this has been analyzed. I think by the 4th century, Arabia had moved away from physical statues. So we see statues in the time of Noah, that's referenced in the Quran, and we see statues at the time of Abraham that they're worshiping. But at the time of Muhammad, we don't have that. And I don't think there's any archaeological evidence of it, and I don't think the Quran never references it. So we are of the position that most likely there were no physical statues or breaking of idols in this form at the Kaaba at the time of Prophet Muhammad.
Hey Dizzle, what's your email so I can grab your Islamic pamphlets? I promise not to dox you. You can, and then the other one. Please provide the pamphlet and a website share link. Ozzy Abe, you can get my email address on my just YouTube homepage. You'll have to click on it and you can get it there. Let's see. Can you do forensic analysis stream? I guess is this towards us? Hang on. Can you do forensic analysis stream on all that happened from when the enemies of Issa went to capture Issa up to the time Allah raised Issa and invite Muslims to come explain to us? Not sure exactly what you're...
Maybe like tracking down the true followers of Jesus or something. Maybe that idea.
I don't know.
I don't know if he's saying from an Islamic perspective, because he's saying Issa and so on. So I don't know exactly. Leave just a regular comment later, main, and you can explain exactly what you mean there. If you're saying like from Sunni sources, explain exactly what happened to Issa, you can't, because that's another issue where you could go to 10 commentaries and get 10 different explanations of what happened. So that would be a hard one if that's what you're talking about. How do they reconcile parts of the Quran that disagree with the Bible, like King Solomon doing magic that was found in false books, and or Abraham's story changes, or the Joseph story changes?
So that's sort of what we. This is the Muhaymin argument you guys would probably are familiar with. Chapter 5, verse 48 talks about how the Quran is after the previous scriptures and supersedes them. Now, or as that word is famously translated as a guardian over them. Uh, and the way that it works is like I can give you an example aside from these ones as well. Is that, for instance, in the Bible, in I believe it's in Exodus, it mentions Pharaoh for the king of the time of Joseph. And the Quran corrects that by calling him Malik in the Quran, but then in the Bible it will say again Pharaoh. But Pharaoh, if looking at Egyptology, the term Pharaoh is uh, found to have been derived during the 19th or the 18th or 19th dynasty of Egyptology, and but during Joseph's time, which is the 14th dynasty, that term was not used. So the Quran sort of makes it's basically confirmation with minor corrections. That's really how the actual thing is, because we affirm, and Rashad himself, Rashad Khalifa says this as well, that roughly 90% of the Bible is accurate to what history it says.
That'd be an interesting discussion to have about your guys' view on the Islamic dilemma, because obviously we take the position that doesn't actually exist in the Quran, any correction. Even with what you just said now about Pharaoh, the question is, what does Pharaoh mean in Hebrew, not what did it mean in Egyptian? And in Hebrew, it means like the king, the ruler, the king. Just like you said, you have both used in Genesis. You have king and Pharaoh being used. But that'd be interesting to have that discussion with you guys. Actually, we probably get into that, I imagine.
So I wanted to touch on, well, is there another question that we want to address before we continue?
Oh yeah, a couple more, and some of them before I actually asked it myself. Let's see. So Pendragon here says, "Do you believe that the Quran denies the crucifixion or the Jews being responsible for it?" So he thought of the same question I did. If you are not Muslim, do you? This already got addressed. So this must have been from earlier. If you're not Muslim, do you pray in Arabic? And why Allah didn't reveal the verse to find the prophet in the Bible? Why Allah didn't reveal the verse to find the prophet in the Bible? I guess the question there is, if the Quran is saying there are prophecies about Muhammad, why didn't he say which ones or something like that? I'm not sure.
I think it's referring
Yeah,
to
so
the Ahmad one, the one about Ahmad,
yeah.
which would be the most glorified or the most praised figure, which is foreshadowed in the Bible as well. The most glorified or the most praised figure, the Son of Man, who's I mean, essentially in Arabic that word is Ahmad, the one who's most praised or most glorified. So we believe that there are some foreshadowing of Muhammad, and which are
Uh-oh.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's it. But yeah, both are
I think you got
prophesized.
disconnected. Yeah, both are prophesized. Yep.
Is that a standard position that you guys believe Muhammad is the son of man in the Bible, or
Muhammad
is
is
that
the
just
son
an
of man? No,
individual?
not necessarily.
It's just an
No.
individual view of his. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, Abdullah, is Muhammad the son of man that they talk about in the Bible? Is their question?
Not
there
universally,
is.
no.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Can
cut
you
out
guys
for a
hear me?
second, but you're back.
Yep, yep. Sorry, but yeah, I got a phone call. My bad.
No problem.
So yes, I believe that there seems to be some sort of link there with the Son of Man, who is the most glorified figure. Like I'm saying, there's just there's like an argument there for that. But Isaiah 29, I believe Isaiah 22 and 29, both chapters sort of do again reflect this. I know there's some arguments on the other end of it as well. It'd be interesting to hear how you guys would sort of push back on that too. So,
Yeah, we could. Maybe. Because we mainly want to understand your position on things and stuff. But if you guys want to have a future discussion and we could go through like the Islamic dilemma
Definitely,
and
yeah.
then what you
Sure,
guys think about
sure.
Muhammad and the Bible, that'd be cool.
Yeah, yeah, no,
Yep,
definitely.
definitely.
Oh, so kind of related to this, I forgot. I was going to ask before. So since you recite the Quran
No, that's
in
that's the question I was going to answer.
in
Yeah.
English, do you? I'm guessing you don't do the. I don't want to be mean to Muslims who aren't being, but like you don't recite it in English like that, right?
Yeah, the
We don't-
Okay,
tajweed.
all right.
tajweed.
No, we don't do tajweed.
We're not too much on the tajweed, but there is one exception to this, is that we do the key. We call it the key, chapter 1 of the Quran. We recite that in Arabic. because of several reasons. It's a universal structure, and also the Arabic Quran is the
It's the key.
literal word of God, and it's the key, and it's coded. So that goes back to the mathematical composition of it. It has many elements. For example, when you recite it, your lips touch 19 times in the recitation, and that's what we use. We see it, we view it as like a phone number that you dial in your prayer to connect with God. But the requirement is you have to know what you're saying. So you have to definitely study it in English or whatever language you know to make sure
Well,
you
yeah,
understand what you
outside of that,
recited in Arabic.
and outside of that, everything else can be recited in your own
Yeah.
language, your own
Outside of that,
tongue.
outside
So
of
yeah,
that, there's no requirement. Yeah.
And so obviously that's going to be Hafs version of the Fatiha in Arabic, right? You guys don't
Yes.
do it in another version, right?
Yes.
no.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
And
exactly.
that's
So,
because
for
that's the
example,
one
the
that
Malik and Malik, yeah, we would go with Malik. So we do it. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. A
and that's
couple.
because that's what Rashad Khalifa chose, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Ben says Abdul on the bottom left. I forgot what he calls himself. It's Hussam, man. What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Percent.
Tear. He says, tear that food up, man. Don't feel ashamed. Oh yeah. This actually.
Wild, bro.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you. Like, is Ramadan the same for you, or is it
It's
different?
not exactly the same. It's pretty similar, but it's not
It's a bit
exactly the
different.
same.
Yeah.
Muslims believe in sighting of the moon. We don't need that. We have NASA now. We have very pinpoint accuracy when it comes to, phases of the moon and sun and everything. So we know exactly when the month starts. They have a lot of fights about this. Oh, it was cloudy, or we didn't see the moon, and all that kind of stuff. We have those differences. Also, the night of destiny for us is fixed. Rashad Khalifa proclaims it as the 27th night of Ramadan. So I know Muslims, especially Shias, they're saying, oh, it's one of the odd nights, or they're kind of confused about it. For us, the night of destiny is the 27th night of Ramadan. This year, I think is what, March 14, which is a
15.
Sunday, at least
15.
in, is it March 15? Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's a difference with us. But yeah, basically all the pillars of traditional Islam are purified with us. None of them are identical to how the traditional Muslims perform them.
And
Right.
so fasting is no eating, no drinking water, no drinking
Yes,
at all. Okay.
yes,
From,
no
birth to
eating,
sunset.
no drinking, and no sexual intercourse.
Mhm.
You've kind of already answered this. How do you view sources like Surat Rasulullah? That's Ibn Ishaq. So here, I guess I'm guessing it's the same. You give the same response, but it's different. So you got the Hadith, and then you have the Sirah literature like Ibn Ishaq. Would you view that the sort of similar way to what you're saying about the Hadith?
Yeah, I mean, even those contain contradictions in them. So, for example, one of the points we use when we debate Sunnis, we say, okay, well, what are the contents of the final sermon of the prophet, the farewell pilgrimage, a sermon, and there's four versions of it, and they kind of squirm and cope, and they say, oh well, it's the same contents, just reshuffled. It's not, though. It's not. And so the Siras have one version, Bukhari has a different version, Mishkat al-Masabih has a different version, and so it's just not it. So it doesn't work. So can there be accurate information in there? Sure, there can be. Is it reliable? No, it's not. So we just go with whatever the Quran explicitly says. And another issue that another aspect of that is in the Quran in chapter 72, verse 26 and 27, it tells us that. Let me read it. That's a great job. I never checked it. So it says, he is a knower of the future. He does not reveal the future to anyone, only to a messenger that he chooses does he reveal from the past and the future specific news. And obviously we believe this includes the messenger of the covenant, Dr. Rashad Khalifa. So a lot of this historical stuff he just tells us outright. We believe just Angel Gabriel just told him outright, this is what happened with Muhammad. He married Khadija, this happened, Aisha wasn't 6 years old, and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of those kinds of things we just get from Rashad directly. We don't need to go anywhere else.
Just a couple more here, and then we're through these. How do you reconcile the historical and biblical evidence that Abraham didn't do Salat or create the Kaaba, opposed to in Quran, or as opposed to in the Quran,
It's
Hadith, and Islam by Rashad Khalifa that says he did and was without circular reasoning?
Reason.
it's yeah, I mean it's hard to
I guess it
prove a
depends on what you
negative,
take.
right? Yeah, it's
Yeah,
hard to
yeah.
prove a
It depends
negative.
on what you take as historical.
Abdullah, you got cut out, but I mean, look, this gets brought up a lot. Are you guys are using circular reasoning, and it's not the case because we're relying on independent analysis and conclusions. So this all goes back to the miracle, the code 19. Either we accept the miracle, we acknowledge it, or we don't. If there's no miracle, then a lot of this stuff falls apart. But if there is a miracle, then it's the truth, and that's it. And so we believe the code 19 miracle has been objectively identified, verified. It's irrefutable. It's something that can be examined and can be established through basic logic and science. And so there's no way around that. Once we acknowledge this is a miracle, it kind of just triggers a chain reaction. The Quran's proven, Messenger of Covenant's proven, and then you get this whole package deal that comes together. So for us, that's that. But there are interesting aspects of it. Some of it Rashad Khalifa himself discovered, some that was discovered later when it comes to the Code 19 stuff and Salat, for example. We talked about the number of times your lips touch, that's 19, but their unit system, the Muslims known as Rakat system, it's 24434. That's a multiple of 19. The digits add up to 17, which is the the digits of the multiple of 19, or 19 times 1286. Those digits add up to 17 again. So there are all kinds of interesting things that came after the fact, but the point is that we don't need to rely on any of that. Once you affirm Rashad Khalifa as a messenger, we would treat him the way Muslims say they would treat Muhammad. When it comes to like hadith and stuff, it's like, okay, that's it. He has the final say, and you kind of have to just hear and obey.
Here we have the German scholars took the dots out of the Arabic Quran and added Aramaic dots and its church hymns to Jesus. Come on, I don't. Who believes German scholars on this stuff, man? German scholars are all over the place, man. Those guys will say anything. Don't know if you guys want to respond to that, but oh my goodness, German scholars.
You know what to say.
There's all kinds of
I don't know what
theories
to say
about the
as well.
Quran. Yeah, there's all kinds of theories about the Quran is in Aramaic and to move around the dots. We don't accept any of this kind of stuff. And someone asked in the chat, well, what do you think about the Ahmadiyas? Look, Ahmadiyas believe in Hadith. They believe in Hadith. He claims to be a prophet. Muhammad's already the final prophet. And their Shahada is not God alone. It's just a false prophet. And what was his miracle? Diarrhea? Didn't he die of chronic diarrhea? That's not a miracle. So that's not comparable. People accuse us of being Baha'is or being Ahmadiyas, but we're just not. That's not it. And we don't adhere to things that they adhere to. Baha'is don't even follow the Quran, and Ahmadiyas believe in Hadith. So these are two different doctrines than us.
On the issue, this was a question. This was a follow up to Son of Man, and it's Pendragon asked, "Son of Man," as in Daniel 7, Son of Man, the one riding the clouds. So I guess is he asking if that's we've heard some Muslim apologists recently say that that's referring to Muhammad in Daniel 7. That's where Daniel gets he says, in my night visions I saw one like a son of man coming with the clouds of heaven. Don't know if you guys have a perspective on that, or
Yeah, the Quran actually, there's a verse as well that talks about how it's going to be on the day of judgment that the God will come down with the angels in the clouds as like an Arabic expression, an idiom, to sort of show that God is going to reveal Himself to us. Again, there are these are all like ancient, basically just ancient, idioms and expressions that we're trying to make sense of today, right, in the modern age. So there are some, like again, there's some sort of foreshadowing. There's some evidence there. We can get more into it again, like I said, next time. If you guys like, I haven't really got all my materials in front of me right now, so just out on the road working.
Yeah, we can have a future
just think
discussion about that.
I think that the point there is, though, because like you said, even in the Quran you have Allah like riding the clouds, and so the idea is that if the Son of Man rides the clouds, and there's like 70 or so different references to God riding the clouds elsewhere in the Old Testament, that would seem to suggest or make it highly probable that the Son of Man is actually divine, because he's doing something that only God does. And so that's what they're responding to when you said, if Muhammad is the Son of Man, you're actually unknowingly like making him to a deity.
Well, yeah, that's why I'm saying it's like again ancient text with modern interpretation. That things do tend to get a little bit, like, I guess, conflated. There are, so like, for instance, there is the thing with Abraham, the offering of of Ishmael or Isaac, the debate between which one was it, and how if you look at like some of the earliest Hebrew, again, sorry, not to change the topic, I just gonna give an example of how if you look at like the earliest translations of the Hebrew Bible, it separates Isaac and Ishmael there, but then if you look at some of the newer translations, that it seems to be talking about just purely Isaac. So that there's again, this is like what I mean, but it's a lot of actually Rashad mentions this too, that a lot of what we have with in terms of disagreements with even with the Bible and with the Quran too, by the way, we see this a lot, is translation issues or just how we interpret those ancient texts. Because 500 years ago, English would be almost impossible to understand if we didn't actually have knowledge of it. Imagine 1,500 years ago of the Quran, and then 2,000 years ago of the Bible, of the New Testament, and so on and so forth. Right? Again, not to say we've lost it, we can't understand it at all. I just think it takes either a sincere heart or an educated person to be able to make sense of these texts. And that's why we have the messenger. The messenger sort of helps us to reconcile these issues between us, the differences, to be able to bring to unify. That was his main role as the unifying messenger.
But he doesn't identify Muhammad as the son of man.
Is
Well,
the
no, I mean he
verse
never actually
I'm not aware of that.
speaks
I'm
on.
not aware of that.
No, I'm not aware of that as well. No, he doesn't speak
Okay.
about this.
All right. Okay, we're just. Do they take the story of Momo and the Al-Zut? No.
No.
And that should be
No,
that should be their Exhibit A, and why not to go to the Hadith? That should be like Exhibit A right there.
Correct. One of them, yes.
Okay, so and now the last these final two are clarifications. Said, how do you know the guy? Don't know. So Rashad Khalifa didn't just take things out that he didn't like in Islam. So was he just saying, "Hey, I don't like all this stuff that the Sunnis got over here. I'm gonna get rid of that." I guess that's what the objection.
Well, yeah, I understand the question, but it's like there's things you can't so the source is still the Quran, right? All his arguments, all his justifications, all of his rulings come from the Quran. So like stoning in Islam, it's just not in the Quran. What are we supposed to do? It's just not there. You know what I mean? So like apostasy law is another one. There is no explicit apostasy law in the Quran. It comes from the Hadith. Whoever changes their religion, you kill them. So you know, we still go by the Quran. We still have a translation of the Quran. If we were to rely on Hadith, I think it would be difficult to get out of these Islamic rulings. But when you go by the Quran, these things just aren't the main issues that are a contention or violence or all these different things. They're just not there. And so in his appendix 33 of his translation, Dr. Rashad Khalifa talks about a wide range of issues in traditional Islam that are just not based in the Quran. Gouging out or saying that Muhammad gouged out people's eyes, prohibiting music and the arts, weird diet, strange dietary laws. Our dietary law is very simple. Saying that Muhammad had sexual power of 30 men, saying that women, anyone who steals cut their hand off. And so there's a lot of things that just got purified. So when it comes to the Quran itself, he obviously identified two fake verses, but those verses don't contain any laws in them. So it's not like, oh, there was a verse on stoning and then he just got rid of it because he didn't like it. We just don't have that in our in the Quran and in our religion.
Yeah. And speaking of the how to treat the thieves, we don't cut off their hands, we just cut their hands. The word in the Arabic is qata, and that same word is used in 1231 for when the woman of Joseph cut their hands when they saw Joseph. But obviously, they didn't cut off their hands, they just cut their hands. And the exact same word is used in 538. And even in 545, a few verses after, it says equal retaliation for wounds. So cutting off someone's hand for stealing is not equal retaliation.
We got another guest who showed up here. This is Issa. He's a
This is
Sufi,
gonna be
and he
really
just kind of invites himself into our live streams and just shows up and so on. But he's he's friendly like you guys and so on. So I'm guessing he's just gonna.
You're welcome.
I'm guessing.
he's not
he's
argue
gonna
with
agree
you
with a bunch
guys.
of stuff.
Yeah,
I
he's not gonna
actually
argue
know
with you.
Naveed. I'm a part of his Discord chat. So
Okay, cool. Then we're all already friends. All right, guys.
Oh, Issa. Okay, yeah, he's a cool guy. He's a chill guy.
No, everyone loves Issa.
Okay, yeah.
and he loves being loved by everyone. And so now we got Issa and Hussam as the friendliest guys we interact with. All right, so
Yep.
guys. So what do you want to cover next?
Yeah, so I think the next thing we should talk about is the Code 19 miracle, because a lot of people are saying, "Oh, this is just numerology. You guys worship numbers or do all this stuff." I think it's important to point out that the Quran itself identifies the number 19 as significant. In chapter 74, which our translation we have is the hidden secret, Al-Mudaththir. I mean, even in the traditional ones, it's kind of like the covered one or cloaked or kind of like hidden in plain sight. Verse 30, it says over is 19. The whole chapter is actually talking about this concept, but people are accusing it says in he verse 21, he looked, he frowned and whined, he turned away arrogantly, he said, this is but clever magic, this is human made, I will commit him to retribution. What retribution? Thorough and comprehensive, obvious to all the people. Over it is 19. And then the next verse gives 5 functions of the number 19. One, to disturb. It says we assign their number, home. We assign their number, which is the 19, to disturb to disturb the disbelievers, to convince Christians and Jews that this is a divine scripture, to strengthen the faith of the faithful, to remove all traces of doubt from the hearts of the Christians, Jews, as well as the believers. And 5, to expose those who harbor doubt in their hearts. And the believers, they will say, what did God mean by this allegory? Next verse says, absolutely, I swear by the moon, and the night as it passes, and the morning as it shines. This is one of the great miracles of warning to the human race. So the code 19 is referenced in the Quran, or the number 19 is. And so we found unavoidable structure in the Quran based on the number 19. And so we can get to different aspects of it, but I think the most relevant to start at least is a consistent methodology of the Quranic initials. And as some of the people here may know, there's 29 chapters of the Quran that have these Quranic initials, and the Muslims are just clueless about them. They don't really know what there is. They think it's some kind of secret between tablets.
That is correct.
Alif, Lam, Mim, Ra, like those disconnected letters.
Yeah, so
Mhm.
Ta Sin Mim, Ha Mim, Ain Sin Qaf, Noon, Alif Lam Mim, Ra, etc., etc. So basically, what we're saying is these are part of a structured design, and so they occur within their chapters in multiples of 19 in an objective fashion, at least sufficient enough to demonstrate deliberate structure here, and that establishes the existence of this design. And then we can get into other aspects of the miracle which support this concept that yes, there is a comprehensive mathematical design in the Quran. Just to start with some basic ones. So I like to present the uncontested ones, because obviously some of these ones that there's several thousand alifs or whatever, it's just hard to count, and it gets messy and it's difficult. So I start with the easy stuff. Chapter 50 is just Qaf. It's the letter Q and equivalent of Q in English, Qaf. And the verse 1 of that chapter says Qaf wa Quran Majid, or Qaf in the glorious Quran. And all we saw, very basic, this chapter contains 57 of this letter Qaf, which is 19 times 3. That's it. It's very simple. It's not contested. It's not disputed. That's just what it is. And then you go to chapter 42, which is Ain Sin Qaf, or ASQ, and same thing again. Qaf occurs 57 times, 19 times 2. And we say, look, every 19 numbers, one of them is going to be a multiple 19. So maybe we just got lucky. So we just keep pushing the envelope and say, okay, well, how many can we get to with the consistent methodology to be able to say, okay, this is beyond coincidence now. This is a deliberate design. And once that point is hit, once that threshold is met, then it's like, okay, well, there's all kinds of stuff we're seeing that are 19. The first chapter revealed is 19 verses. The first revelation is 19 words. Number of chapters in the Quran is 114, 19 times 6. Number of verses, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim is 19 letters, etc., etc. You've heard the Shabir Ali stuff. But so his explanation of it. But the core is the Quranic initials, and people say, oh, well, this is numerology. It's not. It's a deliberate design. I think with numerology, people get into divinity of numbers. We're not saying the number 19 is divine. We're saying that there is a structure observable in the Quran based on number 19. We're able to verify it, and that unlocks additional uh, 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 truths when it comes to understanding the Quran.
Yeah, I think, And so you believe that you're doing, or you believe that Rashad Khalifa did that consistently when you go with all of those numbers, all the countings, the way that you just presented it,
Yes,
that he
yes,
did that consistently throughout all the
Yes.
numbers.
yes, yes. So yeah, and I've studied a lot of it over the years, over the 20 plus years, and it's just like the easiest ones that are not contested are like chapter 19. There's the five initials: Kaf Yain Sad. Chapter 36 is Yasin. Chapter 42 is Ain Sin Qaf, and chapter 50 is Qaf. So those four are just totally uncontested. And then you get into other ones that, okay, some of it might depend on which version of the Quran you have in front of you, but ultimately we see enough there for consistent establishment. For example, Hamim is pretty nice. So from chapter 40 to chapter 46, they're all prefixed with Hamim, and the grand total is a multiple of 19. And so there are
So
various
on
ways. Yeah.
Hamim, so Hamim, you're saying that you go to all of the chapters with
Yes.
that, and then you
Yes.
count how many Hamim you have, and you say you get 19 with that.
Yeah. Multiple. I think it's
And
2149, 2147, which is multiple 19. Yes.
okay, and so what I'm asking is that specific method of counting, you're saying that's consistent?
So for I think for all of them, aggregates just work, and then separate from all of them having aggregates work together, individual chapters. We're saying 17 work within individual chapters. So there's
Okay.
like layers to it. So like the aggregates. So for example, hamims, all the hamims they work together. The qaf, for example, qaf and qaf aggregate works. Sod aggregates, I think it's 738 and 42. Add those sod to aggregates multiple 19. So they all work in
So
aggregates, but then 17 of them work within their individual chapters.
okay,
The
so if
the
I can
actual
understand
sorry.
how this works, you said sod for example,
Yeah.
that when you're counting the letter sod, you're only going to the chapters that have sod, or are you counting everywhere
Yeah.
sod
No, no,
appears?
no, no. Within, yeah. For all of these, it's always
Yeah,
within
within.
the chapter that the initials occur. So for sod, it would be 7, 19, and 42. So you count all the sods of where the sod is prefixing that chapter, and you get 152, which is 19 times 8. Now, what's interesting about that is that we get scriptural variants. So, for example, in chapter 7, verse 69, you see the word bastatan, and bastatan in the current ones is actually written with a sod. But if you go into the old manuscripts, it's actually written with a sin. I hope I got that correctly. It's one or the other, but I think I got that right. And so this verifies this letter in its in the correct form, which is what it was in the past. And so we have some examples like these, but yes, that's the basic concept that we operate with. And yes, it's a scene. I'm sorry, it's a sod now, but it actually should be a scene. And so Rashad cites the Tashkent Quran, which is I don't know from 900 or the year 1000, and it's written with a scene. The current one was the sod, and that would have worked. So it goes back to the original.
Okay, so I just want to just be clear on this. So how you're counting the letter sod? Just run it by me one more time. How you're counting it?
Yeah. So the letter sod is prefixing 3 chapters:
Yeah.
7, 19, and 38. So we're saying in
Okay.
chapter 7, there's 97 sod. In chapter 19, there's 26 sod. In chapter 38, there's 29 sod. And so the grand total of that aggregate frequency for the letter sod is 152, which is 19 times 8.
Okay. So if you go to do you know do you have the chapters like which ones are sod? Do you know which ones they are?
Yeah,
You said
7,
there's three,
19, and
right?
3. 7, 19, and 38.
Okay, so let me just pull up chapter 38 for example. I just want to see if I'm following you here. Okay. So
We're
sod
saying there's
on in chapter
29 in this chapter. Yep.
yeah. So in chapter 38, so just so everyone's following us, who this might be confusing because we're using like Arabic letters. So let's just say like the letter S, just for the sake of the discussion. So the letter S appears isolated on its own in chapter 38. That's like how it starts out, letter S, right? And then you're saying you go to chapter 7, and now it's not isolated; it's attached to a word. So how do you how does this? I'm trying to work with you, like understand what you're saying exactly.
Yeah, so similar to Qaf occurs isolated and with another set. And
Okay.
there's 14 sets. So
Okay.
Qaf isolated with another set. The aggregate is both sets of Qaf, which is 114, 19 times 6. And here, the Sod is isolated. I think the name of the chapter, or is the name of the chapter is Sod, or is it, I'm sorry, 38 is actually, let me just double
Yeah,
check.
sod. Yeah.
38,
The letter.
Okay,
38 is
yeah, yeah.
Sod. 38 is
Yeah,
Sod.
38 is
Chapter name is
Sod.
Sod.
Yes.
Chapter 7 is Alaf. It comes with the initial set ALMS. Again, it's the
Yeah.
heavy S. Do not use the Arabic. And this is what we have. The 14 sets of initials we have, each have they either come on its own, isolated, or they come in a shared set within the
Yeah.
actual initials themselves.
Okay.
And again, like the brother's saying, is that with the aggregate total of all of these is what actually becomes the multiple
Yeah.
19, which again shows
So
a more
Okay.
sophisticated
So
sort of
so just to be
structure.
clear, just so I'm understanding. So okay, so you have the letter. I'm just going to say S just for the sake of the conversation. You have the letter S appearing isolated on its own in chapter 38. It's on its own there. But then
yes.
in chapter 19 and in chapter 7, it's not isolated. It's a part of
Yeah.
other letters that nobody knows what they mean. Okay.
So what's
But you're
interesting of both of those other
yeah.
ones, those occur within their own chapters individually, multiples 19. So 19 is Kaf, Ha, Ya, Ain, Sod, 5. And the
Uh-huh.
total of those 5 within that chapter is 798, which is 19 times, I think, 42. Right, and the
Okay.
same thing with Aleph Lam Mim Sod. Within that chapter is the multiple 19, but we're saying separate from that, Sod aggregate is the 152, 90 times 8.
Yeah. Okay. And then the other example you gave was ha and meme, ha meme,
Yeah.
and you said that
Yeah.
that appears, what was it, 7 times?
7 chapters is prefixed with Hamim from 40 to 46, and the grand total is 2147, which is 19 times
So
113.
just for the sake of viewers, so the letter H and the letter M, these are put together and they appear in 7 different chapters. But the letter H and M also appear in other cut letters elsewhere. So it doesn't seem like
Where
you're
do they
applying it.
appear at?
Is that right? If you, like the letter ha appears elsewhere, or how are you counting it? I'm just trying to see how you're counting.
So the set, the
Uh-huh.
set is the Hamim. That's the set. So we're saying there's 14 sets. Sod is its own set. Qaf is its own set.
Okay.
So we're saying there's half the Arabic alphabet, which is 14 letters,
Okay.
compose 14 sets across 29 chapters.
Yeah.
So each of these sets, my understanding is they occur in aggregate in multiples of 19. So we're saying the Aleph chapters, all of them are just individually multiples within their chapters. Then you add Noon, Qaf, Yasin, Kaf Yain Sad. How many? So was it 11? How many Aleph chapters do we have? Probably like 11, I guess, 11 or 12. And then you have these other ones. So it gets to 17. So 17 are just individual chapters, multiples of 19. That includes all the Aleph chapters and Noon and all this. And then separate from that, you have these aggregate ones like Hamim and, Sod and some of these other ones.
So why don't? But what I'm saying is, with those ones that are jointed together or aggregated, why aren't you counting those in, like, okay, here's everywhere where the letter S appears in all the cut verses or the cut letters, so it occurs here, 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 and here's another one where it occurs in like the middle of the word here. But then when it's ha mim or HM, you're saying only HM. That's what we're counting now. But the letter M appears elsewhere in other sets of cut letters. So what that to me,
Well, because
yeah,
we're
that's
saying
what I'm saying.
Hamim is the set.
Okay. But
Hamim
you're
is
not
the set, and Sod alone is the set.
right. But the way you're counting Sod is different than how you're counting Hamim, is what I'm saying.
Sod is the aggregate of 3 chapters. So 7, 19, 38.
Right. It occurs one time in 2 chapters, in
Well,
the
so
midst of other letters, right?
this is why I would focus on the most basic, consistent methodology ones. Because if you
Okay.
go out, venture out a little bit, you can get a
Yeah.
little different. So, well, let's
So,
just. This is why I focused on just Qaf, just
okay.
Yasin, just Kaf Al Yain Sad. I guess we could throw Noon in there also. These are the ones that I focus on the most, is because we can establish the most basic form of just consistent methodology. These are the
So
initials of the prefix chapter. These are them within that chapter. That's it.
and so when you count the now, because I'm not exactly familiar with your particular the submitters group, but I've heard the 19 argument before. That's why I just wanted to see how
Sure.
you respond to a couple things that yeah, it'd be interesting to hear your perspective on. So when you're counting the letter noon, for example, are you counting it as a letter noon, or are you counting it as how you spell the entire letter in Arabic?
We
So
believe
noon, wow, noon.
we believe that chapter written by the hand of Prophet Muhammad, dictated by Angel Gabriel, was written originally as Noon, Wow, Noon, like
Okay,
that.
what is that based off of? Because there's no
Well,
manuscript evidence of that.
I think there is
Could you
we
direct
found
us to
some.
some? Because you mentioned the
Yeah,
top copy. You mentioned the top copy, for example, other
I
early
think the
Qurans.
Noon. Yeah. Let me
So just
see
I
if
just
I
want to
can
just
pull
just
some
for
up.
because we're kind of getting into like technicalities here. So I just want to while you're
Technical,
looking it up, I
yes.
just want to explain. So basically, as he's coming up with patterns of how you get 19, there are these like cut letters of what Muslims will call like cut letters. Like we don't know what they mean. Nobody knows what they mean. So he's saying that actually no, we know that they're actually like mathematical codes. So you have to kind of fix them with like certain patterns, and you add them together, and you get multiples of 19 or some kind of 19 in the pattern somehow. Because based on
Yeah.
the way that
So
he
on.
described it. But
Yeah.
when it
So
comes
on.
to the letter
Yeah.
noon, it's kind of like if we were to say like it like usually like in English, like there's like, okay, we say that there's the letter B. Okay,
Yeah.
let's just say let's just say you can spell B as like just the letter B, or let's say you can spell it like BEE, for example, like just as an example. I know that's not how you actually spell B, but I'm just giving you an example. So in Arabic, you can have the letter noon with just the letter N, or you can spell like N or WN, like noon. That's
Yeah.
how you spell it,
Now,
like BEE.
what I
So
understand.
what he's saying is that in this case, even though the Quran as we have it today, it only occurs as the letter N, he says that in order for his math to work, you need to spell it N wow N. Like the like you have to spell it out like
Well,
BEE,
so
like that.
yeah, so there's several hints separate from this. So the Quran itself actually has an instance of spelling out this letter in chapter 21, verse 87, describing Prophet Jonah. He's described as the Nun, the possessor of Nun, and its Nun is spelled out as Nun Waw Nun. That's
Yeah.
one instance of
Because
it.
it means
But
whale. It means whale. Yeah.
well, that's the traditionalist understanding. We don't understand it that way. I think that comes from a hadith or the early scholars. But actually, that's interesting because traditional Muslims, they believe the Quran is oral, right? So their interpretation of 68:1, the verse in question right now, is that Ibn Kathir says that this expresses to us that the earth is on a the 60,000
Yeah. A whale.
horn
Yeah.
bull on the giant whale. So technically, if they understand this to be a word, then it would actually be spelled out as noon wal noon, or validate what we're saying. But what's interesting is though before even the Code 19 was discovered, so Rashad Khalifa released the book in 1973, and he's just doing a frequency analysis of the initials without 19 at all analyzed. So this is before he even knew about 19. He published this book, and it's in the university. I've seen this book. I have it. It's in university libraries around the world, and so in that book, without any reference to 19, he just notes that hey. The whole purpose of that book is pointing out that these Quranic initials occur within their chapters at a higher, they occur disproportionately, meaning we're not even dividing them or anything. We're just saying, hey, Aleph Lam Mim occurs at a disproportionately higher frequency than it does in Nisa, so the women, chapter 4, where it doesn't have Aleph Lam Mim. So that was the initial finding. What's interesting is even in there, without even searching for the number 19, it came up as 133, which is for chapter 68, 19 times 7. And Ahmad Didat, in his book on the code 19, he also presented noon as 133, 19 times 7 for chapter 68. So, I mean, for us, there's other stuff. For example, the ER Quran, it catalogs the variant readings of the Quran and
Yeah.
their sources. And so there,
That's
it
Shadi
has,
Nasser, Shadi Nasser's work. Yeah.
yeah, and he has 5 readings for verse 1 of 68, and in 3 of them he has it spelled out as noon wal noon. And then separate from that, we found some early commentary. I think this is, let's see, there's an early one, the treatise on various readings of the Quran, Kitab al-Badi, Ibn Khalaway, Khalaway, and in that folio, it shows a very reading of noon spelled out as noon wal noon. So there are instances of this, but ultimately, we
Yeah.
accept the
It,
messenger's
it exists, like
authority
you're
on
saying.
this.
The reason why this is like something that is worth bringing up is because if it's spelled one way, the code, you can have 19 working with it. If it's spelled another way, it doesn't work. So what you're saying is that within Muslim tradition, which you reject, there is the longer spelling, like for the sake of discussion, instead of spelling B, just letter B, it's BEE. But like,
Right.
so you're saying within Islamic tradition, you do have people who would spell it as BEE, but there's no manuscript evidence of that. But you need the BEE spelling in order for the math to work. So
Well, I
as
mean,
far the extent manuscript evidence, as far as I'm aware, but you said there might be some evidence to manuscript evidence to suggest otherwise, that all the manuscripts for chapter 68, verse 1, it starts with just the letter B. So it's not BEE, or it's actually the letter noon, but I'm just saying for the viewers, just so they can, it's easier to follow with that way.
yeah, I mean, it all comes back to this. Do we need this to establish the
Oh,
existence of
okay.
code
Okay.
19?
Well, that's interesting then. So if you don't need it, then okay.
Yeah, so like, and that's the whole point. Is the argument is we have enough here to establish the existence of code 19. So then we reach a point where, okay, it's just there. We just acknowledge this, and then
Okay.
this just God fall in place. It's like, for example, if I flipped a coin 1,000 times, you know, statistics and probability shows 500 roughly should be heads, 500 roughly should be tails. So if I get 600 or 700, do I need 900 to show that the coin's rigged or something is up? No, I don't need all 1,000 to, work.
Yeah.
There's enough there to establish code 19 is there, and then all this other stuff just kind of, it's
Yeah.
secondary. So that's why in my initial presentation of code 19,
Yeah.
I didn't reference noon because it's a disputed chapter. So I tried to present
No
the
problem. Yeah, no problem.
non-disputed instances.
Just one quick second, Jai.
Yeah,
We
go ahead.
do have another guest. Another
Zardine.
guest jumping in.
Peace, Zardine.
Hey, peace, guys. Peace, guys.
He's
Hope
friendly.
you well.
He's a friendly face.
All right.
I want you guys to know
Peace.
because our worst enemies are the Quranists, so they're really angry.
Oh, okay. Oh, really?
They
I
call
would have
us
thought it was the
Sunnis.
Sunnis. I would have thought it was the
No,
Sunnis.
no. Well, the Sunnis hate us, but I think the Quranists honestly hate us more because we're like the antidote to their whole kind of theology. But yeah, go ahead.
When we went to the chapter about number 19, chapter 74, the way the word 19 does appear there, and it sounds like what you're saying is okay. That's kind of like the basis for like now we have like this foundation to like crack this code. Okay, the number 19 appears in the Quran, so now we need to start looking for patterns of 19. But as you're all aware, there's lots of numbers mentioned in the Quran. Like Allah swears by the number 10 for like 10 nights, or like the number 100, like 100 years for
I think 19 is the
resurrection.
only undefined number, though, in the whole Quran.
Okay.
Everything else correlates with something, right? 10
Yeah.
nights, just did the last 10 nights of Ramadan, or
Right.
other stuff have some kind of like defined concept within it. But 19 is the only one that's like, okay, but why 19? And so we posit this to Muslims. We say, well, look, it says this number, Aidatuhum, in verse 30, 31, it says, their number, Aidatuhum, their number is Amanu Imanan, increases, Wayazdad al-Ladina, Amanu Imanan, increases the faith of the faithful. So we ask the Muslim, the Sunni, okay, how did the number 19 increase your faith? And they can't really answer that. How did it
Well,
increase your faith?
So the 19 is, I think what you're saying is that it's just like on its own, but it's clearly referring to a subject. Like there's the companions of the hellfire. That's who it's referring to,
Okay.
right?
Right, but it says their number is going to increase your faith. I get to
That's a
home. Their number. So how does their number increase a Sunni's faith? And they tell us, well, this is referring to the day of judgment. But we're saying you don't increase faith on the day of judgment. It's already all set.
Okay.
And how is this going to convince Jews and Christians? And it falls apart. Those
Yeah.
explanations don't work.
Okay, so when you have like, Allah swearing by like the 10 nights or something like that, you could also isolate that the same way, couldn't you? You could just say, okay, let's take the number 10 and let's try to make a code out of 10. It's just,
But
it's
we
not,
don't.
it's
But
not
we
as,
don't witness
it's
a
not
code. There's no
from what
code
I,
of 10 in the
yeah,
Quran.
yeah, from I mean, from what I'm hearing is that it just sounds like, okay, you found the number 19 in the Quran and you're saying, okay, there's the basis now we have like a mechanism to decode, or
Well,
whatever, how you define it as. But there's a lot of other
well,
numbers in the Quran you could have chosen as well.
Well, two things. Number one, Rashad Khalifa didn't even have the number 19 when he noticed the strange behavior of the initial chapter. So again, I refer to it as 1973, but before, so just for the audience knowledge, Code 19 was proclaimed in 1974. January 1974, that's what he says, okay, Code 19 exists. Prior to that, he started translating in 1968. In 1968, he got to the first verse of chapter 2, ALM or Alif Lam Mim. So what does this mean? He got the tafsir, the tafsir, check the mufassirin, check the different exegesis. We don't know, So then he put the whole Quran into the computer, the analysis for these chapters, counting for frequency of different things, and without any concept of 19 even in the picture yet, he said, "Look, these letters are occurring in a strange, disproportionate fashion, just statistically. Forget about any division or 19 or multiples. Before any of that, these letters occur. So then this 19 solves that. Okay, well, why are they, at least some of them right away, they're becoming multiples of 19. So we don't have this for the number 13 or the number 11 or other prime numbers. In fact, we did a statistical study. We ran the probability and analysis for all prime numbers between 0 and 100, and we checked the outcome for all of them. And the only one that stood out was 19. So 19 is the only one that works. We don't have any other numbers that work, 10 or 13 or 17. We just only have 19, and this is just what it
Yeah.
is. So we
But
just
like you're
acknowledge
saying,
Oh,
like you're
one
saying,
sec.
it works. Oh, sorry, David. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I just want to say because this'll be new stuff for a lot of people. I was just wondering if I could point to just take a quick look at the Quran passage to so they understand what you guys were talking about right there, as far as the passage that talks about 19. So this is there's a few verses earlier. So it's this is not else than the speech of mortal man. These are just a bunch of translations there. And
You have
then
Khalifa there as well. Yes.
yeah, I got it on there. And then it's him shall I fling unto the burning, or soon will I cast him into hellfire. I will cast him into hellfire. Shall cast him into hell. Soon shall I cast him into hell. I will commit him to retribution. And then verse 27, and what will convey unto thee what the burning is? And you've got it leaveth not, it spareth not, and so on. And then you get down here, it shriveleth the man, darkening and changing the color of man, burning the skin, scorches the mortal, scorches the face, obvious to all the people. And then you have above it are 19. And they're pretty consistent on this. Above it are 19, over it are 19, over it are 19, over it are 19, over it are 19 angels, over it are 19. And then we get, oops, let me move this here. Sorry. And then we have, so Jai was just pointing out, this is just the number of angels, but then we have appointed only angels to be wardens of the fire, and their number have we made to be a stumbling block for those who disbelieve. So that was the point. It's their number that is somehow a stumbling block for those who disbelieve. So so I just wanted people to understand what you guys were talking about real quick.
Exactly.
And it says, and in order that the people of the book may arrive at certainty, and the believers may increase in faith, and that no doubts may be left for the people of the book. So they're reading all that in the context of saying it's the number 19 that is the number of the angels, the number 19 that is the trial, and then it gives those various ways. Anyway, just wanted people to know what we're talking about as far as the Quran.
Yeah, so it's the number that's relevant. And if you look at verse 37, it says, this is one of the, well, 35 to 37. This is one of the great miracles, a warning to the human race for those among you who wish to advance or regress. So this, to us, this defeats the Sunni narrative that this is sometime after we all die. You can't advance or regress in the next life. That's just it. So this is something to do with this life, this world.
I mean, I guess it's also interesting, right? When God at the end of the verse, he says, the disbelievers will say, what did God mean by this allegory, right? So God explained this as an allegory as well, right? So it's not just straight and clear as in this has to be the angels of hell. This is an allegory as well.
So, this is the same word that appears, for example, in chapter 65, verse 4, which a lot of our viewers are familiar with. We talk to Muslims about this one a lot. It talks about like the waiting period for a woman if you're in doubt that she's pregnant. There's 3 different categories that are given, but the same word is used there, but it's in the feminine, of course. It's talking about their number or their waiting period. So if you're taking, their number, like the companions of the hellfire, their number, and you're saying, okay, that means like 19 on its own, that number is the special thing that we need to look at here. Well, if we look at other places in the Quran where it uses the same exact wording, like, their number, but this one's in the feminine, it's saying like their number is 3 months. So it's always going back to a subject. It's not just like 19.
Yeah, but
it's not just
but what
3
is
on
it
its
saying?
own.
Yeah, sure, but it's saying their number is going to disturb the disbelievers.
Right.
Whereas
So the woman,
other one-
their number is 3 months.
Uh-huh.
So it's just
Yeah,
like,
but in those contexts, does it say that 3 month is gonna, or the number 3 is gonna do anything? I'm not sure it does.
well, that's what I'm saying. It's referring to that period of waiting. Like it always has like something that's in mind. It's not just like an isolated number. I mean, that's at least how I'm understanding it, but I understand this is your guys' view on it. But if you look, I would just encourage people to look elsewhere where the Quran uses the same exact word, and it also says their number, like in chapter 65, verse 4. There, but that's more on like the waiting period is how it's understood in that context. But it's literally the same word in Arabic. It's the same word.
Yeah, but for
You're saying it's the
74,
same term, idetohom? You're saying it's idetohom?
Yeah, but this one's it's in the feminine form.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the Quran also says that it references kitabun marqum, which means a numerically structured book. So this concept of a numerically structured book is referenced in the Quran itself. So we have reason to suspect that the Quran will have some kind of mathematical design to it. I think that's chapter 83, verse 9 and verse 19 and 20. So the Sijin and Elin are presented as Kitab and Marqum, numerically structured book. So this concept of, they come from Raqam, which is numbers. So this concept of a Quranic structure or having this is, I just see it. I don't know. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim is 19 letters.
But
It occurs 114 times. Yeah.
Is it 19? So this is where like you can get into like orthography and stuff, because
Well, yeah, Arabs.
Yeah, you
Arabs
can spell
from
things in
Arabia,
different
they'll
ways.
tell
So
us 23.
if you think
We're
of it like
talking
if you think of it like in English, like American English, for example, like color, CLOOR, and then Britain or Canada or whatever, CLOOUR. So if you were to do
Well,
like
I'm not sure there's
code,
variance on this though. Yeah, but I'm not sure if there's variance in the Arabic.
Yeah, but if you were to do a code and then there's a letter difference, like there's a U in the British spelling versus the American spelling, then we're not going to get the same number. So when you have
Right, but
like,
I haven't seen it existing
Ar-Rahman,
though.
yeah, Ar-Rahman,
Yeah, but
for
I've never
example.
seen it written as Ar-Rahman with the Aleph going up. The dagger Aleph is replaced with a full Aleph. I've not seen that in any manuscript. So I don't see that as a contender in this.
That's the difference. That's the difference. And you have differences in manuscripts where you have written in different ways. But then there's a standard spelling today. So the question is, if you're going by spelling, that's something that we as
Which
humans have come up with. We've
When
standardized the
we check
spelling.
the
So
oldest one, if you check the Birmingham Quran, it's written with the same 19 letters. So on this one, we're saying, look, it's written out 19 letters. That's just what it is.
the
If you look at the
Birmingham
oldest Quran,
Quran doesn't contain the Bismillah, does it?
it does. It
Uh,
does. Yeah,
okay,
it does.
maybe it does. Yeah, maybe. Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm trying to think because I know it's only like 50
Because
something
it's
verses.
at the end of, well, yeah, but it's at the end of chapter 19, at the beginning of chapter 20,
Okay, yeah,
and it
you're
has the
right. You're right.
Bismillah
Yeah, you're
there.
right. I think it does. Yeah, I think you're right about that one.
Yeah. So
That's one point though. Like it depends on how you spell things as well. Like again, like British spelling versus American spelling, we're gonna
yeah,
miss
but
the
this
letter
one,
that comes to come off.
but this one's universally all spelled the same. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and all variants is always spelled
Yeah,
as
but we
19
also have
letters.
but we also have a universal of the noon. Remember, we talked about that before. The noon is
Well, no,
universal.
that one. Well, I mean, on that one, I said, look, I can show you old writings that. Well, first of all, you have the readings. We have,
Manuscripts of the Quran for chapter 68.
So there's a couple things in the commentary of the Quran for chapter 68 of Ibn Khalawai. It's written as Noon Vav Noon, and then there is a older manuscript of the Quran that is written as Noon Vav Noon, but the second Noon, and maybe the brothers here can help me. The second Noon is written with a red ink, but it's still the old one.
Yeah, but I'm
It's
just
still
saying
old.
if we're going to go by the manuscripts, we need to have a consistent methodology that we're using here. So if the 19 what do you guys call it, a mechanism? You said you didn't like the word code. What would you use?
Well, no, we're fine with code. We don't like
Okay, code.
we
Okay,
don't like
19. Yeah,
numerology. We don't call
yeah.
it
So if the
numerology.
19 code works with like noon spelled as like noon wow noon, and we don't find any manuscripts spelling it that way. They only spell it as noon. And then we also look at the manuscripts and we say, okay, do they have the dagger aleph or not? We're judging it by that way. Like we need to be consistent with that, because one way it would discount the code, which you already said, okay, well, we don't actually need that anyway for the code to work because it works in all these other
Yeah,
places.
you gotta.
And
Yeah,
yeah,
that for me,
so
it's just getting back to the core, consistent methodology. That's the initial question I asked. Is there enough here to establish the existence of a code? And that goes back to Qaf, Yasin, Ain Sin Qaf, and Kaf Ha Ya Ain Sad. These are
okay,
undisputed. Because you're right. You get the alifs, it gets wild. There's dagger alifs all over the place. Qaf, that one gets disputed. And then
yeah.
on the other ones, you say, oh, you're counting this chapter, you're not counting. So these other ones, there's wiggle room to dispute. But so I tie it down to, look, statistically, 29 chapters, you should have one or two, or have four, we can show a lot more. And so just pin it down on the core consistent methodology. And once that's established, then the likelihood of it actually existing in these other places, goes up dramatically.
Okay, let's talk about if you guys are okay with this. Alex, David, you wanted to say anything on that, but I just want to talk about the ending of chapter 9 in the Quran. If we want to talk about that.
Yeah. So chapter 9 is 127 verses. It's not 128. It's not 129. These two verses were already historically disputed. There's
Based on
hadith.
the Sunni sources, right?
But yeah, based on the Sunni sources, they were already disputed. So Hadith concocted all kind, stories about him. That the guy that had him, Ibn Khuzaymah al Ansari, he testified for the Prophet. So the Prophet said, according to Hadith, your testimony is worth the testimony of two men.
It's
So
double.
when they're compiling, yeah, it's
Yeah.
double exactly. So when they're compiling the Quran, they're like, well, look, these two verses only have one witness. Oh, but we have this hadith, or we have this narration that this guy's testimonies were two. So let's just throw them in there. And there's hadith that talk about how they're kind of figuring out where to put these in, and it just doesn't make sense because according to their own history, they say these are Meccan verses, but they dump them in a Medinan chapter with a Meccan guy. Al Ansari means he was Meccan, so that doesn't make any sense. There's all kinds of inconsistencies with the history, but even just the meaning of it, it uses the term of the God on the Prophet. So Raufur Rahim occurs in the Quran 8 times. Here, Raufur Rahim is alleged to have occurred in reference to the Prophet Muhammad. And this is a name, a double attribute, adjective name of God, Rauf Rahim, which ironically, I think in Yusuf Ali translation, it translates as most merciful, but it's in it's describing Prophet Muhammad, which doesn't make any sense. So these kind of weird things were already going on, and then the code 19 comes in and just knocks it out. There's 26 words of these two verses total, and then we found 9 of them disrupt the code by 1 each, and then we got a whole bunch of other parameters that just point out that these two verses just don't
Yeah.
belong in the Quran.
I mean, just to add another factor there is also chapter 9 being a Medinan chapter, right? And then these 2 verses being Meccan verses, right? Slapped on at the end of a Medinan chapter, which is also another big red flag as well to add on to that. So there's many dimensions to why these 2 verses are problematic.
Okay. And so obviously, most importantly for you guys is that would disrupt the 19 code, right?
Yeah, I mean, we believe the 19 code is a protection mechanism. It's an advanced antivirus system that does a full body scan of the Quran. It detects the viruses and eradicates them. So it's just
So
running the software.
you were talking earlier how you're kind of like you're sensitive to the accusation of being circular. So I think this might kind of get to the heart of that. So the idea is that if okay, we can talk about the other points you made. Like you didn't just say 19 is the only way you know that those 2 verses are not valid, but that's one way, or most importantly for you guys. But we can talk about the others as well. Not that, I'm not like defending the authenticity of it. I just think that like the manuscript evidence is in favor of the last 2 verses, but it doesn't really matter to me either way. But just the methodology here, this is what I want to get to. When you say that the 19 code can kind of like protect the Quran from this virus of these 2 verses that are infecting the Quran, or they're not actually truly the Quran. um, of course, if they're not interpolations, then the Quran would be doing the opposite to the 19 code, right? It would be the Quran saying, no, actually, these are authentic verses, and your methodology is what's in question. That's the problem. So it seems like you're presupposing this method, and because the method doesn't work with those 2 verses, then they become the problem. Whereas if it's not an interpolation, if those 2 verses are not interpolations, then they would actually rule out and they would do the other way around.
Here's what it is. Here's the challenge for Muslims. If you don't have code 19, you have 30 versions of the Quran. Forget about the issue with these 2 verses. There's all kinds of variants. These 2 verses are 26 words, but collectively I can find more than 26 words across these variants that have differences. So if you don't believe in the Quran's preservation mechanism, then let's say someone's a Muslim, what do you believe the Quran to be? Because even if you go with the hadith that says there's 7 qira'at or ahruf or whatever, those are not defined. And the Sahih Hadith or the early scholars are attacking the Quranic reciters like Hafsan Asim, right? He's
Yeah.
called all kinds of names by Bukhari and other ones. So their early Islamic history is actually viciously attacking these early reciters, and the Hadith doesn't identify which reciters are the good ones. So you're really stuck without a Quran. I mean, it's either this or bust, basically. Like it's either there's a code 19 preservation mechanism, or you don't really know what the Quran is.
But you would say that that's the reality for the majority of history, that people wouldn't actually know until like Rashid Khalifa came with the
Yes,
19,
yes,
right?
yes.
So for the vast majority of history, that what you just described, that is the position. Like let's say if you were born 100 years ago, then that's your predicament would probably be
Well,
that, right?
yeah, and we're saying that the Arabic Quran, I mean, look, the general message of the Quran, if we talk about Tawheed and oneness of God and worshiping God alone and getting out of idols, that's a general message that is a concept that everyone can understand. But realistically, if we go back 200 years, what is the interaction of the average Chinese person or Japanese person or whatever person around the world with the Arabic Quran? There aren't translations, and even the English ones, the George Sale ones, these other ones, they're not very good. So for the whole duration of this time, these non-Arabic speakers couldn't, like, there's no Chinese translation of the Quran. They didn't have AI. There's nothing they could do with it anyway. So realistically, there's nothing to do with it. We're arguing, we're even taking it a step further. We're saying the Arabic has changed. We're saying that
Right.
even between the time of Muhammad to the Hadith compilation, there's already been sufficient shift in the meanings of the Arabic terms, to the extent that the Arabic terminology used in the Quran, the Hadith, is different than how it's used in the Quran. For example, Sunnah. In the Quran, Sunnah is like, in the Quran, Sunnah means system, and the only Sunnah is God's Sunnah, and that's it. It's just a system and a structure of God. But in the Hadith, Sunnah is like, okay, you watch the Prophet, how he defecated, how he went to the toilet. That's Sunnah. So there's already divergence early on in the Islamic history of basic terminology of Arabic. Slap on another 1,000 years, and it's like lost. There's so much stuff that's lost, and it just gets out of control. So we believe this whole plan was to bring it back to now with Code 19, the Messenger of Covenant, and present the Quran to us today for the whole world in English, in the language, the way that everyone can understand.
Okay. What do you think, David? Because I don't know if I got. I think the answer to the question that I asked was basically you need 19, and there's no possibility of that being authentic because that would invalidate the code, because you need the code to work. But you also don't want to be accused of circular reasoning.
Yeah, so I think if I've gathered correctly, it would be, if the argument depended on like those two verses for the argument, and you said, okay, for the argument to work, we got to take out those verses so we get the right number and so on. But it seems like what they're saying is we establish that based on other stuff, and then we apply that, and that's one of the places we would apply the mechanism.
Exactly.
It just
Yeah,
seems like
and I
it
exactly
just seems
right.
it breaks down a lot. Like, okay, like we don't need it with like the noon. We don't need it here. We don't. It's like it seems like you're willing to give a lot of like leeway, or you're willing to abandon a lot of the places where you could have it because we have it in all these other places. But then once we go to those other places, it's like, okay, we don't actually need it here. We don't need it there. We have all these other
There's
places. We go to
enough
those other
base,
places.
but we're saying there's enough at the core that all these other ones. So Code 19 establishment is not dependent on noon or the fake verses. It's just not.
Yeah.
I'm saying with Qaf, Ain Sin Qaf, Yasin, Kaf Ha Ya Ain Sad, those four, maybe with a couple others, that's it. We're done. We don't need to go into all this other stuff. These are all just secondary, exactly like David said. Once the core is established, you pinpoint it. Okay, now we have the mechanism. We just use it on everything.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I don't know. I don't know how much more we want to talk about this, but I wanted to, when we can move on, I wanted to talk about the Quranism stuff and kind of the dilemma that they're dealing with. We touched on it a little bit.
Yeah, so not just Sunni Muslims, but Quran only Muslims.
Yeah, yeah. So
are you guys kind of like us in the sense where like Shia Muslims, like we kind of have like a like a working level knowledge of Shia Islam, but we haven't dedicated too much time to it because most of the Muslims we're interacting with are Sunni Muslims. Even with your position, I don't have like an extensive knowledge on, but
I guess I'm not
so would you
familiar
guys
with your
with Shia
background. Are you
Muslims?
from
Would
like
you guys?
are you from? I'm just not familiar with the background. I'm sorry. I apologize. Are you from a Christian background, or what? When you say us, who are you referring to?
David and I, yeah, as Christians, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So
Like
I mean,
because you mentioned this the Sunnis, you mentioned the Quran onlys, but I haven't heard you say Shia. You did mention them, but do you guys
yeah.
also
I
have
mean,
things against them, or?
yeah. I mean, it's the same thing. I mean, well, as bad as the Sunni hadiths are, I think maybe the Shia ones are even worse because they're not even necessarily attributing their hadith to the Prophet. They're saying we're going to go to his
Oh,
grandson or great grandson or
okay.
after Ahlul Bayt and other stuff. So they're even less credit to where they're at, and they give the authority to the imams. They do blatant Ali worship. I feel like for a lot of strict monotheists, a lot of what their stuff is just blatant idol worship. It's more clear, it's more clear cut. Well, we're telling the Sunni Muslims you worship Muhammad. They're like, well, we don't worship Muhammad. You talk to Shia, the Shia say, well, Ali is the face of God, face of Allah. And so it just gets really wild in their kind of stuff. But yeah, same general concept of we believe they're idol worshippers.
Okay.
But I think what happens is it's happening a lot. You're going to see it more and more. People are disillusioned with mainstream Islam, with Sunni Islam, Shia Islam too, but they want to hold on to their faith. So they go to this Quranism stuff. And Quranism is really liberating in the sense that you don't need to have a lot of this oppressive stuff in Islam, but you can kind of like, but instead you kind of DIY your own religion. And so we've seen a lot of people, they're like, well, look, intoxicants aren't prohibited. I can smoke marijuana now, or I can, drink alcohol, drink beer, or commit adultery, or all kinds of stuff. They kind of just make it up as they go, and they can just make the religion the way they want that fits their needs. So that takes them in a different religion. Obviously, us as submitters, intoxicants are prohibited. We don't accept that. So we have a strict understanding of a lot of these concepts based on the Quran. But in Quranism, it's very liberating in that, and they like that. They just hit a wall because they have no collective basis and no collective coherence in a religion, and so they're just kind of they're good. They're really good at attacking the Hadith and mainstream Sunni Islam, but it's like you can change. You could just replace them with an atheist or a Christian, and you'll still be able to attack the inconsistencies of Hadith or whatever. So it's not like they're really offering uh, uh, something in return, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And that's kind of the difference with us. It's like, no, we have a coherent doctrine, we have a messenger, we have a concept, we have the Quran, we have the tafsir, the commentary of the Quran. These are the hard lines. This praying 5 times a day. It's you can't drink alcohol, you can't smoke weed, you can't homosexuality is a sin. We don't have these kind of like, well, you can just blur the lines and do whatever and say you believe in God in the
So
Quran. We don't have this
there are like
concept.
a lot of by the way, is Edip Yüksel, is he a submitter or is he just Quran only?
Yeah, so this is interesting story. Rashad Khalifa sponsored him and brought him to America in 1988, I believe, or 89. And
Okay.
he really liked him. And they were close at that time. But Edip Yüksel, I think, during the time of Rashad, for those couple years that he was there physically, and then before that, a few years they were doing pen pals, letters back and forth to Turkey. That's where he lived in Turkey, and
Yeah.
Rashad Khalifa was in Arizona. I don't know if we mentioned that in this conversation, but basically he was kind of constrained. So he accepted the 5 prayers and accepted all this stuff. And during Rashad's life, he was restrained. And in the last, so we have audio collection of Rashad's teachings. He would record his discussions for future reference and understanding and teachings. So in the last audio, just I think 4 or 5 days before he's stabbed to death, he's martyred, there is a discussion with Edip Yüksel. And in that discussion, Rashad tells him, you're out. Like your path is hell. You're just falling out. You're not in line, and you're in a bad situation. And even and then that and at that time, Edip was still accepting a lot of the mainstream stuff that Rashad was teaching. But then after Rashad departed, he just fell off the deep end. He just said, okay, well, there's 3 salat, or there's no salat, or Kaaba's now he says Hajj is a mental discussion or a debate, and so he became the modern day founder of Quranist. After Rashad died, he kind of just went off the deep end and just made it open ended, where all these other Quranists kind of branched off and made their own versions of
Okay.
Quranism.
Yeah, because my familiarity comes through. Actually, I think David, you had a discussion with him, or he was on ABN a lot. I know he was on. There was a network that David was used to do a lot of work with, and I know that Edip used to go on there a lot. He debated. I don't know if he debated David, but he debated a lot of Christians on there. So that's how I knew him. But I didn't know the association with him and Rashad Khalifa. So that's interesting.
Yeah, so he kind of fell apart. And so what happens with a lot of these Quranists, you'll see, is they'll have a lot of followers. People like them for their anti-Hadith stances. But when I visited him, it's like, his own family doesn't practice the way he does. They really become isolated. They don't have a community, and there's nowhere to go. So that's really what they get known for, is okay, attacking Sunni Islam. But that's the extent of their relevance in these kinds of conversations, because they don't really believe in objective truth, whereas we do. It's like, look, Angel Gabriel told Rashad alcohol is prohibited. There's no way around it. You know, homosexuality done, abortion done, and so at Abuxel is kind of a
Yeah,
progressive.
it's a very transgender
Yeah,
religion, right? It's a very
yeah,
transgender type of religion where
yes,
there is no sort of there's no objective truth. There's no set doctrine. Everything is sort of fluid and subjective, and my truth and their truth and your truth,
Oh, I see.
which we're yeah,
yeah.
it's very that's Quranism in a nutshell, right? We call it the infinite permutations of religion. You can
Infinite
and I think you
permutations.
guys would see that you guys have a similarity with Protestantism, for instance. This is why they say that there is 55,000 denominations of Christianity. Majority of those are just
Yeah,
Protestants who
the difference
tend
is
to have a
with
little difference.
Protestantism. Yeah, the difference with Protestantism, though, you had geographic and ethnic kind of connections and ties, and some kind of some basic hierarchy. And the I guess the better aspect of it in Christianity, there's less, strict laws and rituals and stuff, and so you can play with that.
Right.
You can work with that a little bit better. But with the Quran, you don't have that luxury. And the Quranists, they don't have that. There's not geographic aspect. There's not ethnic background kind of. There's not any of this. So each Quranist is their own religion, and that's why they can't get anywhere. They're going to always lose, and the Sunnis just defeat them when it goes beyond just criticizing Hadith. And so for us, the submitters, we're a unified block. You got four of us here right now. We're all on the same page. We're all aligned, and we have the capacity to grow as a viable alternative to mainstream Islam.
And I'll just point out as far as the Quranists and so on, lots of alternatives to Sunni Islam are going to start being appealing to people, and so it's kind of which direction are people going to go? Because lots of people, in the past, if you go back a couple of decades, Sunni Muslims would go their entire lives without hearing criticisms based on the Hadiths. Now it's everywhere. It's everywhere, and a lot of it is embarrassing to them. A lot of it they don't want to defend, and so they're actually looking for some other place to go. How do we have to avoid dealing with this mess? And so people are gonna be looking for an alternative.
Yeah, and we're here to catch anyone in our net that we can. I mean, ultimately, uh, Rashad Khalifa was very pro-West. He was pro-American, the American prophecy. He believes America's God's chosen country. So, what it's difficult for a lot of Muslims, even the ones that reject Hadith, they've been so indoctrinated to hate Jews, to hate the West, to hate Israel, and have these kind of anti-Western concepts that for for them we are not appealing because we're pro-Western, pro-America, in many regards pro-Israel, and it's just too much for them to
Oh,
acknowledge. They're
that's
so
interesting.
yeah.
Pro-Israel.
They
That
just
was I didn't. So you guys are pro-Israel. You guys.
Kind
Okay.
of. Even in the Quran in chapter 5, 20 through 21, God says that the land of Israel was given to the Jews, to the children of Israel.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah, and
Okay.
so
Right.
and that's
So
and Rashad explains that the most precious gift of God on earth is freedom. And he says because America's founded on religious freedom, America's the most blessed country. It's going to be the heart of submission. And anywhere in the world where they, uphold these values, they're going to be above. Otherwise, now in the Israel situation, it's a double whammy because even if they were just some other religion and they didn't have these values, they still defeat the Muslims because the Muslims are divinely going to lose no matter what. They're done. And Rashad explains this. The Arabs are done. The Muslims are done. They're on decline. They're just always going to get, on the downfall. But with Israel, because Israel does uphold freedom of religion, then that's a double whammy, and Israel's going to win, and Israel's prosperous, and Israel defeats the Muslims every time.
Yeah, because think
Wow.
about it. Like the Muslims, they've conquered most of the Middle Eastern land. So how come when it got to Israel, that's where they stopped? That's Israel is the one that washed them out completely compared to all their other enemies.
So do you guys get accusations of like being Zionists and like you guys
Always,
are Mossad
always,
agents and stuff? And
always. I said,
I
where's
could
my
tell by the
$7,000?
reaction. I could tell by the reaction as soon as you said that.
Always. Where's my $7,000 check? I would like
Yeah,
some
yeah.
right now.
And like a lot
But
of people, yeah, a lot of Sunnis, they say that the Quran alone movement or submission was started by Zionists, by Jews,
Of
by
course,
Mossad
yeah, of
agents.
course.
Like the
Yeah.
dumbest. Look, if Jews are calling people to the Book of God, I got no problem with that.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, the Jews were
And this,
like, "Hey, just believe in the Quran."
yeah, right. That's what that that's insane to me. That doesn't make it. That's crazy. And so,
The
like
thing
that
is,
concept, yeah, it's like okay, we want to convince everyone to believe in the Quran. Okay, that's doesn't make any sense.
with
So,
Jews, they don't accept Jesus as the Messiah. So why do they come people to a book that goes against their entire doctrine?
yeah.
But I mean, we're against Islamic terrorism, so
Okay.
we find ourselves
Heavily,
kind
heavily
of
actually. Yeah. Again, why we said no compulsion in religion, and
no, yeah,
the Quran
apostasy
is
law
heavy
is a
on
big
this.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
right. We don't believe in that
correct. It's a big
stuff.
one.
Violence,
Look,
oppression. We
as
don't believe in hijab.
yeah,
I mean, that's another
Yeah.
big one. We
well,
just
I
don't
mean,
believe in hijab.
another one too, hijab. Yeah, yeah. But I mean, look, as
Oh,
Naveed was saying
your
earlier
women
too,
don't
that
cover.
No.
No.
no, no,
Oh,
we don't
Okay.
believe in it.
The
It's not in the
president for it
Quran.
in the
Uh,
Quran.
There's no
There's
Quranic
just no
ruler.
precedent for it. I
so do you
mean,
all come
we're trying
from
to
like?
Arabize our women.
Do you guys all come from like? I don't know how much information you want to give about yourselves. You don't have to, but do you come from like Sunni families, or
Yeah,
were some of
three
you
of us
born
come from
into?
Sunni family.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yep, yep.
I'll speak on me and most of
I
us as well.
myself am.
From
Yeah,
complete Sunni backgrounds as
yeah.
well.
Okay.
Went to submission like a year ago. Grown up Sunni my whole life,
Really?
and
Wow. Okay.
yeah, 100%.
yeah. So I mean, one of the things I think Rashad was working on is just a full de-Arabization of the religion because we believe Islam is just a manifestation and melting of infusion of Arabization, Arab culture into religion. Whereas like you're using these Arabic terms that a Christian Arab would use these terminologies, but they've fused that with their understanding of Islam, and so we just decouple of that. So you notice we just use fewer Arabic words, and
Mm.
we don't want to dress. I mean, and
Look,
honestly, for me, like the beard is not sunnah. It's just aesthetic.
You
It's
like a
not,
beard?
so it's
Okay.
like yeah, that's it. So we don't believe in these concepts of
I
sunnah
mean,
yeah,
and
no, no.
I mean,
this
also,
kind of
if
stuff.
you look at
Look,
Muhammad's testimony in the Quran on Judgment Day, right? He says, "My people have abandoned this Quran." So our position is that the Arabs, they have abandoned the Quran and they're upholding another source of law that's outside of the Quran, right? And this is
There's some
tantamount to
controversial
idol worship.
stuff. Rashad
Yeah.
explains the
well,
Arabs are cursed.
Oh.
That's a big one. That's a deep one.
And even
So
that's fair.
in chapter 9, verse 97, it says, the Arabs are the worst in hypocrisy and disbelief.
yeah, but it's more than that. So, but when we say Arabs, we're not
Issa
talking
likes that
about.
for some reason.
Well,
He
so
loves it.
when we say Arabs, we're talking about the Arabian Peninsula Arabs, not
Okay.
everywhere. Specifically, Arabian Peninsula, not anyone that speaks Arabic. So North Africa is okay. Obviously,
Right.
Rashad, he says, "Look, I wasn't Arab. We're Egyptian. These are pre-existing peoples that were conquered by the Arabs, and the Arabic language was imposed on them." But we're talking about the Arabian Peninsula area, and Rashad explains they're just cursed. Like they're just cursed. They enjoy
And no one,
temporary,
no
and then
one
they're gonna.
rejected. Look, no one rejected submission and Rashad and Code 19 and the Quran alone more than that specific area
That's
for some
it.
reason.
That's it. You talk
Till
about
today,
people saying
40 years now, we still haven't
we've
got
never had
a.
someone.
I think
We don't have a
yeah,
single
we've never
person
had
from the
someone.
Arabian Peninsula. You talk about counting, like that when we talk to Arabian Peninsula people, they say, "Oh, Basmallah is 23 letters." We can't even get them to accept there's 19 letters on that one. So we've never had in the last 50 years, we've never had anyone accept submission from the Arabian Peninsula. We've had Egyptians, Persians, Afghan, Moroccans, Algerians, everywhere else, Indians, Turkish, but never Arabian Peninsula. So this is like a black hole of the world
Okay.
that's just cursed, and they're cursed people, unfortunately.
Wow. Interesting.
Wow,
Yeah,
I can vouch as far as veering away from the Quran because like we were talking about earlier with the miracles, they'll be quoting talking about Muhammad shooting water out of his fingers and stuff, and we'll quote
Right.
the Quran to them, and they'll say, oh, what it really means is something completely different, and then they'll go to another one and we'll quote the Quran to them, and they go, oh, what it really means is something completely different. And it's just like, do you guys respect the Quran at all? Because it would
This
seem
is our
like
challenge.
it would seem like
Thi-
if Allah says something, that would be like, okay,
This
that
is our
would trump
challenge.
this thing from 2 centuries later. And they're like, no, we're going with the
We're
thing
s-
with 2 centuries later.
we're we're saying this is our challenge to the Muslims. Our statement, our claim is Muslims do not follow even one commandment in the Quran correctly. Just one. We say, show us
yep,
one
yep.
commandment that you're following from the Quran correctly. We've not seen any of them,
without
even observe
abrogating it.
one.
Yeah, without abrogating it from the hadith, without any,
One, just
like,
one
try to
commandment.
fulfill one commandment in its
Are you
entirety.
talking about
They can't do it.
like positive injunctions or negative injunctions? Like, what if they say, "Oh, we don't eat pork,"
Look,
for example? We don't eat
But
pork.
they
Yeah,
don't
so
even
for
follow the
example, on the
pork
yeah, I
law.
pork
mean, look,
one.
okay,
So on the pork, that's a
yeah,
good point. So in the Quran, it says lahm al-khanzir. It says the meat of pig is prohibited, but in the Quran,
yeah,
there's a distinction between meat and fat of an animal. And the Muslims believe the fat is prohibited, but the Quran says the meat is prohibited. So they're prohibiting what God
not
did
the
not
fat.
prohibit.
Oh, okay.
Correct.
Not even
Mm.
that,
And
but
they can't.
they,
That's the thing. There you go. And that's a big sin in the Quran too. That's considered, that it actually is idol worship, because you're creating a law besides God's laws, and you're trying to insert
yeah,
that there.
42,
The
42,
dietary
21.
prohibitions. Correct. 42:21. It's a big one. 42 there is a big chapter on this, on people taking other lords, or lawmakers besides God. But the dietary prohibitions in the Quran, look down to the most simplest, the most basic thing, just about what we eat, what we eat. They can't even do that, right? If you're talking about divorces, they do divorce laws differently, contracts differently. All five pillars, right? The shahada, the declaration of faith, the salat, the contact prayers, the obligatory charity, the Hajj
Everything,
pilgrimage,
everything.
every
They
single
don't
one
do
of them, every
anything
single
right.
one of them.
The
I
adhan,
mean, even the
everything. They
Hajj,
don't do anything right.
even I mean, even on their Hajj, right? Rashad Khalifa said that if they during their Hajj they visit the Prophet's mosque in
Medina,
Medina, their Hajj is nullified completely.
nullified.
Oh,
Right.
Yeah, 39,
oh.
And
So do
65.
you
don't
guys do
ask.
you guys go
I
to?
do
Do
have
you
to
guys do
say,
the pilgrimage as well, or no?
Yes, yes, we believe in the
yes,
pilgrimage, but
yes, we
no
do.
Medina. Like I said earlier, I mean, Rashad said just tear down the tomb of the Prophet. We don't believe in that. We
So
don't
what do you
believe in
guys
that.
do with like the black stone? What do you make of the black
We don't
stone?
believe in the
No,
black stone. We don't
That
believe in the
it's
black
it's
stone.
idol worship.
that's
Yeah,
like the
we don't
final boss,
we don't
Idolatry,
bro.
go
whether
there.
kissing or
The
licking
final
or
boss.
whatever with the black stone,
Final
we don't
boss.
believe in any of that.
It's
Okay.
like don't worship
The
idols.
final
Like
boss.
here's the stone for you.
We don't. When we don't usually get this far with the Muslims, they start screaming and takfiring like crazy before any of these things that we
I
said.
was
So
actually gonna say
we're
I
way
really
past.
appreciate this. I
We're
really
way
do appreciate
past.
the
We're
dialogue,
way
brothers.
past anywhere else we would go to any extent with any Muslims. They
Uh,
get really angry.
Oh no, yeah. They think we're like the biggest, most evil jerks in the world, and it's like we're reacting to some really messed up people saying some really messed up stuff,
Exactly.
What's,
and so we
what's
seem messed
funny,
up.
Exactly.
If people are normal and friendly, we get along. We get along with people
yeah.
anyway.
what's
So
funny is
there's
like
an
they get
I
mad
interesting
at
would
verse
you.
in
like
the
to add
Quran
this too,
about
just
this,
so
right?
you guys can know this. So just so you know, this is a big thing too. Rashad actually makes a big point of leniency towards the Christians who have a bad view of the Prophet, of the Quran, due to the Muslims who have corrupted the message, right? So we have a big leniency towards this. We understand the animosity that people should actually have towards how they portray the Prophet, how they portray the Quran. Due to them, even down to the child marriages aspect. I don't see any person who has humanity in them who can't get disgusted at something like this. It is a truly disgusting thing if people aren't upset at child marriages and apostasy killings because people want to. Freedom of religion is a huge thing. Like as mentioned before, freedom is God's most precious gift to us as Semites. And for God, it's His most precious gift that He gave to us. And freedom of religion is at the highest at that point, right? We even have the freedom to commit idol worship if we so wish. But for
We
people to be
cannot
able to,
survive in any Muslim country. We cannot survive in
exactly,
any
None of
Muslim
us.
country. None
we'll
of us
survive in
can.
I
Israel,
mean,
definitely. So we could survive in Israel, right? But we
Well, they
cannot
paid you
survive next
guys,
door,
so
definitely.
Yeah, there's 2 million Arab Muslims
I
living there.
mean,
Oh
from
no,
our paradigm, there's a very interesting verse to just go off what Abdullah said. It's like, so God basically tells us, says, do you see those who repel people from the path of God, right, without knowledge, right? And we see that the Muslims today have repelled all of you in our paradigm because of their blatant deviance, right? Of upholding these other sources of law. I mean, there's so many things that they can't justify. And you guys, correctly so, and the world is waking up and realizing they're learning the hadith sciences. They're realizing that there's so much problems with it. And now they're facing the brunt of it. Now they're facing the backlash of it because they've kept all this information gate kept behind them, right? Like we've got this superior hadith science. But the truth is these statements cannot be verified to go back to the Prophet. That's just what it is. And people are waking up to that.
Yeah, there's this. They spend so much time in these debates with you guys on just nonsense, and we just cringe. Why are you defending this? Why are you saying these things? It's just terrible. And they're depicting the prophet in a way that we find so vile, so blasphemous, so disgusting.
So
So
do you
we
guys
just
do like any formal debates like with Sunni Muslims or other
we've
groups?
had
Destroy them all
many.
the time, man.
We've
We
had
destroy them
many.
all the time.
You do? Okay. Yeah.
Do you mind if I ask a
Because
quick question?
there's a
Sorry.
lot of we're mainly interacting with the Sunni Muslims like the Dawa guys, and there's a lot of them. I don't know if there's any of those guys you guys have debated who are like some more
You should
prominent
Yeah,
organize a
Hamza's
debate
Muslims.
for us.
Den.
I mean,
We
we'll
did
be happy to
Hamza's
debate them
Den,
for you.
Oh,
guys.
you did. Oh, you
What?
did. You
I'm
did.
just done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sheikh
I mean,
Uthman,
recently I
Hamza's
debated
Den,
Ali
No,
Oh,
Dawa
but
and
they
wow.
Isha.
run. But they
Ali
run, right?
Dawa,
Yes. There's actually,
I,
Dawa
I,
wise.
uh,
yeah, I've seen
Orthodox.
them.
the Dawa
I've
boys.
seen them run from. I've seen them like run at Speaker's Corner. I don't know. I don't know. It was.
Oh,
It was
Shamsi.
some version of Quran only people who were attacking the Hadith and so on. And these guys didn't want to talk to them at all. The regular Muslim
The
debaters there.
yeah,
Look, the
no,
Quran
yeah.
alone
So
people come from a bit of a weaker position, right? So, like, if they had to sit down with the submitters, it would be a very different story, right? So, I mean, Mohammed Hijab, Mohammed Hibijibis, and all of them, right? Ali Dawa and stuff like that. If you organized a debate with them, that would be very, very, very detrimental to them if they had to sit down and debate with Naveed and the submitters.
yeah, it's a different animal. But yeah, we've talked to a bunch of them, but typically they don't want to talk to us because we go hard against the hadith, and they don't want us to present our alternative with Rashad Khalifa and submission and stuff. So right now they're in the phase of like just since Rashad was stabbed, uh he was martyred in 1990, so they're just trying to avoid this. I mean, even Ahmad Deedat, who wrote the book on the Code 19, he just renounced it. He's like, look, I just don't want to bring any attention to this guy, so I'm just not going to talk about it anymore. Shabir Ali is an exception. I think really it's just Shabir Ali. Maybe there's one or two other guys, but that's it. Mainstream Sunni Islam, they disown Code 19. They disown, anything that we're teaching. They don't want to. They don't even want to mention Rashad Khalifa because just the mere mention of
The,
him could get people curious to learn about what we have to say.
Correct. There are implications that come with this code 19 too. So, and actually, Ahmadiyya at one point was saying that if we were aware of how big what Bashar discovered was, we would end up worshipping him. He was making these grand claims about it, saying he's, an amazing servant of God. But then the moment it was reject the hadith, it was not reject Rashad. This is how they basically tried to go about it. And then there were calls to buying his books and burning them to try to keep, people to try to basically push down any knowledge of Rashad Khalifa and people celebrating at his assassination. Things like this. Yeah, it was pretty dark, but yeah.
All right, guys. Well, it's past 11 where I am now. Issa said he has a question, but should we let Issa ask his question? Then we hit the last remaining questions in the super chats, and then call it a night. And then we can reunite sometime in the future for a discussion about
That
the
sounds
Islamic
great.
dilemma.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you
that
very
works.
much.
God
Yeah,
willing,
that sounds
God
All
great.
right, all right, Issa, what'd you have? What were
It's actually linked to what Brother Jai was bringing up. I very curious about your feelings of what we call the Dawagandists. Like, you were talking a little bit about them, but like just kind of the attitude and kind of the
chest
sort of
thumping?
behavior that the chest thumping, the behavior that they have, and just kind of like your interactions with them. What's been like the overarching kind of vibe? You mentioned you liked Shabir Ali, who I wouldn't say is a Dawagandist, but out of the Dawagandists, is there anyone you like, or do you think they're all kind of insane, or what are your feelings on that?
Look, they are pretty rough. If you're asking us submitters, I mean, yeah, they're pretty rough to us. I think the most calmest, probably the most productive discussion I had was with Ali Dawa. He was surprisingly more.
Hmm.
He actually gave a bit more chance, and I was surprised. I debated him and his chef. They had a YouTube segment at one point, and it was awesome because they were giving me enough chance to actually put them in tough positions where they couldn't answer any of my questions. They admitted to their hadith manuscripts being hundreds of years after, while the Quran was preserved during the time of the Prophet. They were. I mean, it was nice because they allowed me to put them into a corner a few times. But apart from that, everyone is very rough to us. They tend to be a lot more, surprisingly, more harsher to us than they would be to you guys, because they see us as like, the people on the inside trying to destroy the religion. And we have solid arguments, guys. We'd be very happy to share. We have a library of arguments against these guys. We're like, I was talking with God Logic last time about this too. Some of the arguments that you guys use, awesome. Honestly, amazing arguments. We're impressed, but about the level of sort of the echelon of the arguments you guys are using. But we have even better ones if you guys want, much better ones that actually really damns them, puts them in positions that they commit, shirk and kufr, that they commit, heresy in their own religion many times. So it's yeah, if you're interested, we're very happy to share that.
I think anyone who threatens their idols, right? Their idols are Bukhari and co. So obey God and obey Bukhari, right? So if anyone threatens their idols, they become very, very rough and tough, right? And that's just what it is.
And I guess you're talking about how they're kind of more hostile to you guys. I guess that would kind of make sense if we're attacking the hadiths. It's okay. These are these are the kuffar. We expect them to attack it. But if you guys believe in the Quran and you've got a problem with the hadith, then you're a little closer to something they would have to take seriously there.
Because we're more likely.
In some cases, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say we're more likely to take their people. Let's be honest about it. The likelihood of a disillusioned Muslim becoming Christian and believing in Trinity is lower than staying with the Quran but taking some of the things that we're telling them. So we pose a much higher threat.
Yeah, because they'll spend a long time talking to Christians, Jews, atheists, Shias, even they'll be super respectful. But when it comes to somebody who rejects hadiths and believes in the Quran, they run. They say, no, you're a kafir, they start cussing us out. And you see a side of them that you've never seen before.
Yeah, like, I mean, we join live sometimes and stuff, and I've seen them debate with Christians and stuff, but you should see them debate with the Quranists, people who believe in the Quran alone, and the submitters. They become extremely, extremely hostile. It's actually almost nearly impossible to have an actual discussion with them.
Do you guys have like a dedicated YouTube channel to debates or something that we can check out some of these? I'd like to see the one about Sheikh Uthman because we have some
Quran only studies. Yeah, Quran only studies has some stuff, I believe. That's our YouTube channel.
I mean, if you guys, we can just look out. If you guys come to discord.gg/submission too, we've got all that stuff there too. We've got we've all got like TikTok accounts, we've got YouTube accounts. You can Quran only studies has got some stuff there. Another one to Submission Vault, we've got as well. I mean we've got a few of these, but mainly if you guys come to the Discord channel.
Well, they have the Discord. The Discord server is in the description of this video on YouTube. It says Hissam's Discord link, and that's our Discord server, discord.gg/submission. So we have a whole bunch of resources there. That's where we talk, and we're all available over there. But yeah, we do. If you search my name, probably there's the other channels that uploaded debates that I had. But yeah.
People that we're not affiliated with, you may see some of our debates on their accounts.
Do we want to get some questions?
Yeah. Let's we'll try to go through them pretty quickly here, and I'll probably anything that's like not relevant to what we're talking about, I'll kind of just flip through it real quick.
I do have to step away, guys, though. But thank you so much. God bless you for the opportunity. It was really lovely talking with you guys. God willing, we'll catch up again soon. Thank you very much, guys.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Peace.
Nice to meet you. Catch you later.
Likewise.
Pendragon says, if the Quran doesn't talk about something and the Bible does, can you use the Bible's rulings?
So we don't rely on the Bible for rulings, but Rashad says it's okay for general concepts, narrations of stories. We, as long as it doesn't contradict the Quran, we put it more likely to be true than not. So, the story of Abel and Cain, or Numbers when it comes to some of the stuff Moses was doing and Aaron. So we don't take it for rulings, but we're generally okay with the biblical stories about the prophets.
Is this just an Islamic version of restorationism? Does seem like a parallel. So restorationism in Christianity is like movements that claim
Martin
to restore
Luther?
the More like like Seventh-day Adventists and Mormons and so on, who are like, we're restoring what it's supposed to be because it's been corrupted over time.
Maybe, I mean, I guess in that sense it would be similar. I mean, the idea is that there was one religion and that's submission, and it got corrupted over time. But the main messengers of submission is Abraham. Abraham's the founder of our faith. Obviously, we believe he built the Kaaba, established the Salah, the Zakat, the fasting, the prayer. You know, in translating these, the our prayers, the contact prayers, the charity, and the Ramadan fasting, which we're in currently. We're saying all of this started with Abraham, and then through the lineage of Ismail, it got to the Arabs. But the other lineage, it just got distorted through Isaac and Jacob and Joseph, and then the Quran. We understand the Quran teaches that the Jews and Christians just lost these practices, but with the Ismail lineage, it's kept in the Arabian Peninsula, and so it just got corrupted over time. And then Muhammad brought the Quran, obviously, and then the Muslims deviated after that, and so Rashad's job is to restore it back to the original state of affairs, if you will, to emphasize the worship of God alone, where we're saying that obviously we believe, Christians worship Jesus, Muslims worship Muhammad, and we're saying, look, we only worship God. So that's essentially, yeah, I guess in that sense we would say that we're restoring in that way.
What do you think of the guy claiming to be the Mahdi, the dude in the black beanie? Yeah, Issa, you should sue that dude for stealing your look, man.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, we don't believe, obviously, that's an offshoot of Shia Islam. We don't believe in Shia Islam. We don't even believe in the concept of Mahdi. Mahdi's not in the Quran. We don't believe in that stuff. And I don't even think they follow the Quran. They think drinking is okay. They don't.
Well, do you know who this is actually talking about? It's that guy like
Yeah,
last year
yeah,
came
yeah.
along and I am the
Yeah.
Mahdi.
We know.
It's talking
Yes, why
about
the discussion?
Abdullah Hashim, right? Abdullah Hashim and the black
Yeah.
beanie guys.
He's the Pope too. Remember, he's the Pope also.
Oh yeah, I
so
am all the things from all the religions. I am the Pope. I am Saint Peter. I am the Mahdi.
Yeah.
I am the. It's like, wait, what, dude?
No, and so the basis of their religion, they say it's based on the will of the prophet, and I say, okay, well, show me a manuscript of this will, and then they fall short. So they don't have a proof, they don't have a miracle, there's no prophecy, no, we just don't accept. And
They
then
don't
they
have
worship
evidence
the
for their
guy.
claims, basically.
He says the true Asr prayer, the true prayer of the afternoon is prostrating to me. So we don't believe in human worship. We don't believe in prostrating to people in this way. And so it's just a deviant, another cult, I think. It has nothing to do with anything that we believe in.
That new dude, especially, like obviously that guy studied cults for years. He studied all the
Mind
cults,
control.
and
Mind control.
then he
Yeah.
put all the cult tactics into one thing. He learned them all,
Yeah.
and then so if they don't do the zut, what's wrong with you, man? So you worship numbers. I was born in January. Now go. They said they're not.
It's not number worship.
We don't worship numbers. We only worship God. Actually, I can tell you who does worship numbers. Baha'is worship numbers. We believe Satan had knowledge of Code 19 and he injected himself into the Baha'i religion. I don't know how much you guys know about that, but that's an offshoot of Shia Islam where they worship the number 19. And so they have to make sure all of their prayers and everything is based on the number 19. Otherwise, it doesn't count or whatever. They even changed the months of the year. So in the Quran, it tells us there's 12 months in the year, but in the Baha'i calendar, they forcibly changed it to 19, and their fasting days are 19, and the number of days in a month are always 19. So that's like number worship. We say, no, it's 12 months in the year. We fast the 29 days or 30 days. And so we just accept the Code 19 as a structure for the Quran and the proof of Rashad as a miracle, but we don't force things in our life to be, multiples of 19 or number 19.
Mojab, this Muhammad Hijab says, without the hadith, Quran gives no age restrictions. So this was a fairly
This is the
popular.
real Muhammad Hijab?
Yeah, that's Muhammad Hijab. That was him talking
okay.
to Quran only Muslims. No, it's a video.
Okay.
They're referring to a video about him.
Right,
So
right,
Muhammad
right,
Hijab
right,
was
right,
talking
right.
to Quran only Muslims, and he said, without the hadith, then you would conclude that there's no age restriction on marriage. And he said
Well,
you'd be able to have sex with a
yeah, so
5-year-old.
let me. Well, no, because the Quran talks about women, and we understand women to be adult biological females. So we believe the Quran describes children and women as two separate categories. So children are off limits. So the requirement to be able to consummate a marriage is physical puberty and mental maturity. And so a 5-year-old can never fall into this. You have to have the mental capacity to enter into a contract. So a 5-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 9-year-old would be disqualified. They wouldn't fall under the concept of women. Example of this is given in chapter 4, verse 6, where it says, "Don't give the orphans their property until they've passed they've passed physical puberty, and then they reach mental maturity, and then you test them to see if they're mentally mature enough to be able to handle their own finances or property or whatever." So we do believe that child marriage is sinful, it's unjustified, and we don't believe. Yeah, there. I mean, there's no explicit age, but we think it's different. But let's say someone 17, 18, 19, whatever. But it's definitely not children. Children are not in the equation of our for marriage for us.
Because if you're going to use the hadith, the hadith says that you can marry a 6-year-old, right? So if they want, age restriction, you go to the hadith, marry a 6-year-old. But the Quran, it tells you to use your brain, right? God's given us a brain for a reason. The Quran and the Bible, none of them give a specific age, but it gives us the information that's needed to know when someone's ready for marriage.
Yeah.
We have corruption or simply following the book and the hadiths. So the question is there, if have they corrupted it or they're just faithfully following it?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I would say ISIS is, they tried their best to follow the hadith. They're being faithful to that. But I mean, it's hard. I mean, realistically, if someone wants to live a life following the hadith, that's difficult. We're talking about 40,000 authentic hadiths. How do you even live your life according to hadith? That's rough. So, for example, you can't defecate in the direction of Mecca, or I guess the opposite direction, or Jerusalem. So your urination, defecation, the direction you drink water. There's so many things in Sunnah. It's not a practical religion. We believe God's religion is practical. The Quran is practical. And I've just been practicing over 24 years. I haven't had these problems. But I think life is very difficult if you truly, truly want to live faithful according to the Hadith. And so, that just to answer that question, it is a corruption. I mean, we believe in the core practice of the prayer, but they just added extra stuff. We believe that Muhammad cannot hear us. So when they speak to Muhammad directly, they say, "Assalamu alaikum ayyuhan nabi." They're speaking to Prophet Muhammad. We don't believe Muhammad can hear us. The Quran says he cannot hear us. So these are all corruptions that are added to the religion.
Does this only work for one type of Quran? I'm guessing they're referring to like Hafs or something like that.
Yes, yes. So the Muslims, if you talk to a Muslim, ask them which version of the Quran they follow, they'll say, "Oh, well, all Qurans in the world are the same." It's not true. Come to us. We can give you a lot of resources. We've mapped it out. We've have many diagrams, images showing the variances and the different readings, different laws, different spellings, different words, different letters. And so we pinpoint on one Quran. We found the closest version of the Quran in the current existence, mainstream existence, is the Hafs and Asim. But even then, there's issues of it that need to be, I guess, going back to the concept of the antivirus system, the purification and preservation of the Quran with the miracle preservation of Code 19.
I
Code
think this
19
is
basically scans Code 19 basically scans all the text, right? And you'll find that this is 87%, 92%, 82%. Hafs was the closest at about 95%, right? And then Code 19, what it does is it further purifies the Hafs and brings it back to its pure form of what Muhammad actually received. This is essentially the function of it.
I think this is someone on your team. Shiki with Kifa says the 29 chapters are aggregated in 19 ways. They all work constantly under consistent criteria-based methodology derived from the tilka ayat decelerations and initials that appear alone or not.
Okay. Yeah, I know Shiki. He's a good smart guy.
I don't know how many people understood that, but that would lead to the this next one.
Well,
God,
I think
God bless
I
you,
could just
Jack.
say he's referring to there's 114 chapters total of the Quran, which is 19 times 6, but 29 of the chapters have Quranic initials. We were talking about that earlier. That these are the core of the Code 19 claim. To establish it is that there's enough here to show that there's demonstrably some kind of structure based on number 19.
Then we have God bless you, Jai. This is the Islamic confusion final boss.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Then we have Kifa again. Who needs Allah when we have 19?
It's not
What these guys are talking, code 19. Jews say they have Torah codes for a long time back. I've seen a couple comments like this. I'm wondering, would you guys even have a problem with there being
Well,
earlier
let me address
codes or
that,
something like
actually.
that?
That's
So
very interesting
we're talking
indeed.
about like the Torah code or the Bible code. You know, I've spent a lot of years just learning about this, or at least hearing about it also. And the way the Bible code is, as far as I know, the mainstream one that's described, they just assembled the whole Bible, the whole Torah in like word search format. Like they just put all the letters in like a huge, you know, just written out, and then they go in and try to find words and circle them and say, well, look, you know, this says this, this is this, this is this, and then like words that kind of look like they're correlated with. But that's not, I don't know, that's not a code in that extent. That's just kind of like word search and just arbitrarily just finding whatever. I don't know if that necessarily shows that, but in chapter 46 of the Quran, I think it's in verse 10, the Quran acknowledges that from the children of Israel, and this is another thing, it's controversial to say it, but we believe Ashkenazi Jews are originally from Israel, and the Ashkenazi Jew from the 12th century, the German Rabbi Judah the Pious, found some kind of mathematical code based on the number 19 in some Torah stuff, and the Quran references that. So we do believe there are some kind of 19 base code stuff in the old scriptures, or is it 11th century AD, Rabbi Judah the Pious. We have resources on that. But yeah, I mean, I guess we're not inherently opposed to there being codes in previous scripture, to answer that question.
Allah has 99 names, but Father ain't one. Very rude.
the 99 names
We
concept.
don't
That's
believe that. Yeah, that's from Hadith. We don't believe
Yeah.
in the 99
I was
names
thinking
of
that.
it. And it's-
I was thinking you have names. You have names of Allah in the Quran as far as like titles and things like that. But yeah, assembling the 99 names, and then their lists don't even match up.
They don't match up, and then on top of that, I think they say that Muhammad has more than 99 names. So Muhammad for them has more names than God has names, which is blasphemous, I guess.
I think Sheikh Uthman now has more names. They call him Sheikh Ibn Fibbin, Sheikh Ibn Smollett, Sheikh Ibn Zina, Sheikh Ibn Footnote. They have. He's working his way up. He's working his way up. It says, I've seen very similar arguments made for fake theories. I'm open to hearing out the miracle of 19, but what definitively separates it from the cherry picking we see in the weird theories? Thank you.
Well, look, I have a video on YouTube. You can watch my video. I can share my data, and you can determine if we're cherry picking or if there's actually consistent methodology to establish the core of Code 19 here.
If you
There's
by the
also
way,
more resources.
yeah. So I as you already mentioned, I included the Discord link that Hussam sent, but you don't want to add like 50 links or something like that to a description, then no one's going to click on anything. But if there's like one or two more links that you want to put in, like that video or something like that, Hussam can send them to me, and I'll toss those in there as well.
Thanks.
Let's see. Seems Issa is regretting his choice of Islam. Lol. Wait, what? What, the Sufi? Could it be their number just refers to when the day of judgment comes, since that is a stumbling block for disbelievers, and for a believer trusting in the mystery could increase faith?
No, because as soon as someone dies, the test is done. There's no increasing of faith. There's no being certain of anything anymore.
I mean,
So
how will
some-
it convince? You have to ask yourself. In that verse 31, it says, it's one of the functions will be to convince the Christians and the Jews. I mean, once judgment has come, I mean, what's there to convince anymore, right? So there's a lot of these issues.
Here we have, why let the Quran be lost in the first place? I mean, the Quran wasn't lost, so I guess the idea is why let it be modified in the first place?
Yeah, so I mean, look, God says He's going to preserve the Quran, right? So the whole idea is, and Rashad explains it in a good way. You make a rule because someone's going to try to break that rule. So the Quran says it's preserved in the master tablet. The master tablet's in heaven. We have these human presentations of the Quran, but ultimately we use the code 19 to get back to the master tablet, which is in heaven. And so this is demonstrating the preservation mechanism because, again, if we take out the code 19 in this system, what are we left with? It's really just 30 versions of the Quran with all these contradictions. You don't have a clear, clean way to move forward. So for us, code 19 is the only way that you're going to pinpoint one exact Quran and be able to have this. Otherwise, you're just stuck with nothing.
How do you verify the angel Gabriel visited Rashad Khalifa?
Yeah, I mean it just follows, right? If code 9 it's a logical sequence. If code 19 is real and Quran and that means Quran is real and Quran prophecies Rashad Khalifa and Rashad Khalifa fits the description of the messenger in the Quran, and if he is a messenger, then and he's truthful, then Angel Gabriel, he's honest when he says Angel Gabriel comes to him, takes over his brain, injects information to it to share with us.
Here we have print one sheet flyer and photocopy it. I don't know what you're talking about. Are you talking about the pamphlets earlier? I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. Leave a comment. Leave a comment afterwards. Don't worry about another super chat. Just leave a comment and I'll check it out. So how do you guys see the perfect world as opposed of world subjugations?
Yeah, I mean, we believe in perfect harmony and peace. So I can reference Rashad Khalifa, Appendix 36. He talks about the political system of the world under his paradigm. He talks about a prevalence of love, courtesy, peace, and mutual respect among the people and between this nation and the other world community. So we don't believe in subjugation. We don't even believe in jizya the way the Muslims do. We believe in freedom of religion. Everyone, no apostasy law, and anyone can come and go as they please. Actually, to be even more specific, Rashad Khalifa talks about the Quranic system being extreme libertarianism, maximum freedom for the people, a political system that has minimal government interference. And so we just don't believe in force, coercion, and oppression.
Here we have, how do we send y'all stuff? Email? Thanks. Not sure who you're addressing, Red Robin, if you're talking about me or Jai or Issa or any of our guests here. So you've got the Discord link. You got the Discord link for everyone here, and then you know how to get in contact with the rest of us because you see us pretty regularly. So. And then the last three here. Jesus is God. God bless you all. And we have, would it be wrong to say Rashad foresaw? This is like a variation of did he just want to take out stuff that he didn't like? So here it's, would it be wrong to say Rashad foresaw issues with Muhammad and the Hadith and created a sect of Islam that doesn't have to deal with those objections? So like he saw, hey, this is going to be a problem here 30 years from now. So let me go ahead and get rid of all this stuff.
If I can just comment on this briefly, secular non-Muslim scholars are comprehensively pointing out that the hadith are just independently and objectively unusually unreliable. So even if you look at this from a historical perspective or a scholarly perspective, they're very unreliable. They're just not. There's so many. We pointed out earlier that even on biographical facts about the Prophet, they're struggling. They're contradictory. They don't know how long he lived in Mecca or how long he lived in general, and so they're not reliable as a whole. So if you're going to base your religion on those, it's inherently problematic, regardless of what angle you're coming from. We talked about how this creates division even among the Muslims. Like, what are their rulings? What do they even go with? So they're confused. They don't know what to do. So, I mean, I can understand how someone would come from that approach, say, oh, well, Rashad just wants to make it cleaner. But Rashad is not saying, hey, let's cut out half the Quran and get rid of a bunch of the commandments. He basically takes all the verses of the Quran in terms of the commandments, and it's just we don't see them the way the Muslims do.
Yeah, and last year you even had Sheikh Yasser Qadi that he got in trouble for that one. He said the Hadith methodology can't stand up to scrutiny.
Cannot.
And
There's
and then
a
he's
there's a guy. His name is Mufti Abu Layth. He's pretty popular. He's exposed many
yeah.
of the hadith, but he's still
Oh,
a
I
Sunni.
love. Yeah, I love that guy though. He's just. I like people like based on their personality, even if they disagree with me and stuff like that. If they're nice and they're funny and they got a sense of humor and stuff like that. But yeah, he's Mufti Abu Layth. He was awesome.
He's the master of the laugh. He's the
Yeah,
master
he is.
of the laugh.
He has the most awesome, hilarious laugh on the planet that I've ever heard. And here we have one from Issa. Thank you, Team Apologetics, Team Code 19, and chat. Yeah, that covers everybody. And then I just had one more last second theory here. Suppose we go with this number 19 theory, and then we say, where was that pointing? Well, it might be to Surah 19, verse 19. We might want to
nice
check
verse.
that out and see what that is.
It's where Gabriel comes and talks to Mary. It says, I'm a messenger.
Hey, it's about Jesus.
Yeah, 1919.
That's interesting. He said, I am only a messenger of thy Lord that I may bestow on thee a faultless son. Awesome. Okay, well, we cracked the code, everyone. We cracked the code. All right, I'd just like to thank all you guys for joining us. Any final thoughts before we close out?
No, thanks for having us. If you have any viewers that are Muslims or Sunnis, and they're doubting their religion or they're having problems, come to us, or even non-Muslims, come to us. We can talk about some of the stuff. If you're interested in what we have to say, or if you want to use some of the content that we have in your discussions with Muslims, I think you'll find it very beneficial. We're usually on the Discord. We love conversations. Just join us and have a conversation with us. We can provide you a lot of resources, and we try to keep good conversations going.
Yeah, and just from me, just want to say thank you to the host and everyone here. Thanks for having us and being very respectful. And I think it was a very fruitful and productive discussion. So respect.
Thank you very much.
Yep, and again, link to the Discord is in the description box now. And if they want any more links in there, they can send those to me, and I'll add those as well. For those of you who are watching later, you'll have all those. And thanks everyone for watching. Hope you learn from this program and have a better idea of Rashad Khalifa and his modern followers and some of the problems they're responding to and addressing. And we will catch you all next time.
Peace, guys.
Thank you. Peace.